special presentation of TNN Motorsports. The first 3 stops on the 97 ASA Tour brought the teams together with unfamiliar venues and with each other, which is a tradition of ASA's short track racing. The intense competition unleashed 3 different warriors into victory lane. 2 of them achieving the goal for the first time in their careers. Today, the ASA family returns to the sleepy little hamlet of Jennerstown and a track that can awaken with the fury of a sleeping giant. Sitting on the beach spreading suntan lotion in our shorts. This week, we're in the mountains of Pennsylvania. It's cold and some 50 degrees out here with a blustery wind as we get set for the Jennerstown 300, the 4th race of the 97 season for the AC-Delco Challenge Series. As you can see, there's that 50-degree mark, but I'm telling you, that 16-mile-an-hour wind sure feels a lot stronger than that. We just about got blown off the roof here just moments ago. Hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Shaheen, along with my partner in crime on these ASA shows, Jim Trado. We're a long ways away from the beach of Pensacola, aren't we?
We certainly are. It's a matter of how many layers you brought in the hauler, thinking that it's now May. It should be warmer. It's not the case here in Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh.
That's right. You know, every time we come to Jennerstown, there's always some interesting things going on, but there's some points of interest today that we really want to take note of. And one of them I'm really having a hard time grasping. I can't believe this. The first lap that Mike Eddy leads, whether it's today or 3 weeks from now, will be the first lap he leads in all of 97.
And the last win he had was here in Jennerstown last spring, so he's gone nearly a year without a victory. Very uncharacteristic of the 7-time ASA champion. Kevin Sawinski is the only driver to lead all 3 ASA events run this year yet. Seneca has a milestone, 350th start today, Ralph. And who'd have thunk 3 races into this season, we'd have 2 new winners.
Steve Carlson and Mike Garvey picking up a couple of the 3 races we've had already this season. So those are some of the points of interest we have for you up top here. But there's another story down on the grid. On the 3rd row is where we're going to find, in fact, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the past races here.
Great finish in 1995. If you were with us here on TNN, you saw a spectacular finish. The last 5 laps, it was 2 drivers for the win. Joe Knott looking for his first, and Seneca was not to be denied.
That's right. Here they came off at turn number 4. Joe Knott and Bob Seneca. Seneca into the pit wall, just about climbs it, goes over it, but he wins it, sliding backwards and almost upside down across the line. Bob Seneca picking up one of his 82 victories here on that day. So that are some of the more interesting points here at Jennerstown. But there is another interesting story, and it's down on the grid with the 3rd member of our broadcasting crew, Dave Burns, is standing by.
Well, Ralph, I don't know if I can top that, but we could be seeing this weekend at Jennerstown the re-emergence of Canada's greatest stock car driver. Junior Hanley finished 10th at Pensacola 2 weeks ago. He qualifies 6th here today, and he brings a brand new Monte Carlo to the Jennerstown Speedway. Didn't like what the Pontiac was doing, thinks the Chevrolet might be the ticket for him. Another Chevrolet that's been doing fantastic is Buddy Schrock. Now, fans may remember our stories about Buddy and the way he got to the track in a U-Haul trailer. Well, those days are kind of gone. Buddy has a brand new 5th wheel here this weekend, and he's looking pretty sharp. He qualified 5th, and Buddy, I understand that the car you thought you had in qualifying really wasn't the car. It came a lot faster than you thought it was going.
Ain't life great? We went back to basics. We took all the trick stuff off the big A-Team Unidal car, and things drivable now, and we're just looking forward to a good race.
You know, it was really funny that Buddy shared with us that now that he's comfortable and he actually thought he was going slower, he actually went faster. And as we mentioned, he qualifies on the inside of row number 3.
All right, Dave, thank you. And, you know, the thing that we have to start really keeping an eye on now is the fact that since we are 4 races in, points are really going to start to become a big issue here as we start chasing our way through this championship season. As you take a look at it, Kevin Sawinski in his sophomore season not suffering any kind of a jinx.
And Steve Carlson had the point lead, but Sawinski with those consistent runs heads the points. Carlson 2nd. Dave Sensiba, Scott Henson, and Gary Samont have had very good runs this year, yet to win, though.
Taking a look back behind that, as you look 6th through 10th, Mike Miller, who sits in 7th position already with a victory in the 1997 season. So that's a look at the top 10 points, but there's one guy you would expect to see in there early on in the season. He is not there. That is the 88, the Good Wrench Service parts machine of Mike Eddy.
Mike Eddy has led more laps here than any other driver in 10 visits. He has 4 victories, more than anyone else. He knows this racetrack. He had a problem in qualifying. He ended up having to run the last chance qualifying race. He qualified 28th, had to run the 15-lap last chance race where they line up the rest of the field and actually send some guys home, but not today. But he had to actually go out there and practice in the last practice session to figure out the setup.
Suffering through quite a drought is Mike Eddy, but I don't think it's a drought that's going to last forever. So that takes care of all the business. We've got one thing left to do, and that's to flip the switch on the motors. So back downstairs to Dave Burns.
Well, you know, right now I'm making my best friend Craig real jealous because he was a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan when we were growing up, and he never got to meet a quarterback face-to-face. This is Mike Tomczak, number 18 from the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are you doing here?
Well, I'm supporting this race, supporting ASA Racing, and on behalf of Black & Decker, I'm here sponsoring and helping out Mike Kofer's car and coming out here and meeting the fans here across America, especially in the Lower Valley.
You ever started a stock car race before?
I think in my backyard when I was 3 years old.
Yeah, me too. Okay, why don't you get us started here today?
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Well, the engines have come to life here, and that's about the only thing that's going to warm up this place right now. The heat from those V6 ASA motors. Stay with us. The Jennerstown 300 coming up. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Good Wrench service dealer. We want your business. Jennerstown, Pennsylvania is where we are. We're about an hour outside of the Steel City of Pittsburgh.
Iron City is certainly alive and well, and driving over this way, the Laurel Highlands, we're used to seeing a lot of scenery changes, a lot of colors in the air as we're here usually in September, October. This being the earliest visit to the Laurel Highlands for the AC-Delco Challenge Series, and we were hoping for better weather, but I know the racing certainly will heat things up in a hurry.
Let's show you the grid for today's Jennerstown 300. Gary St. Amand on the pole with a new track record. Kevin Sawinski in the number 1, right alongside in the Pontiac.
And a driver's climb back to 7th in the points is Mike Miller, the season opener winner, and Bob Seneker, the all-time ASA win leader.
Row 3, Buddy Schrock and Junior Hanley, the best stock car driver ever out of Canada, with a new paint scheme, white and red this week.
In the 4th row, Brad Loney, again, he set that record of consistent and continuous finishes, 47 straight, last race at Pensacola. Mike Garvey, the winner in Pensacola, in a Pontiac.
In row number 5, Steve Carlson and Jack Landis, who's been on the verge of maybe picking up a win already this year.
Qualified 11th is Tony Raines, the 1996 Series champion, making his 2nd start in Jim Daly's number 2 car, and Brandon Sperling in the Chevrolet out of North Carolina.
Behind them is Rick Miller, and a driver we're glad to see back on the tour, Todd Forbes in the number 98. Says he'll probably run maybe up to half a dozen races with us in 97.
Inside row number 8, we find Dave Sensiva locked in the top 5 in the points. He almost had a victory here last spring, and Rick Beebe, looking for his first ASA victory, will start outside row number 8.
In row number 9, Harold Fair and Ted Smokestad, who's picked up a new sponsor. We'll be telling you a little bit more about that in the 9th row.
And the last 2 drivers to make it through qualification, Scott Hansen in the number 52 Pontiac and Joe Knott in the Valvoline Raby Ford.
In row number 11, you find Tim Sauter in the 55 and Steve Holshausen's number 5, a car we expect to see coming up through the field.
Indeed, and as well, Yale Conley and Bill Baird, who had some great runs, did not make the top 20 in qualifying. They'll line up in row 12, Conley in a Chevrolet, Baird also in a Chevrolet.
Row 13, the 7-time champ Mike Eddy, the number 88 Pontiac, and Brett Bell, who has been jinxed as long as he's been in ASA racing, in the 56 Ford.
In the 14th row, we find Mike Kofer, whose friend Mike Tomczak got us underway, and Robbie Pyle, making his first ASA start from Columbus, Ohio, will start his Pontiac outside of Kofer.
Row 15, Kurt Huff in the 66 Pontiac, and another one of the blue ovals, Peter Cozzolino, the McDonald's car, making its 2nd appearance in 97.
As we go to row 16, it's Aaron Huff out of New Palestine, Indiana, and rookie Tim Taylor, who led the race at Pensacola, Florida, looking to do more of that, leading some races here in ASA.
In the 17th row, taking a provisional, is Tom Jones, who won his only ASA career victory here. And Alec Pinsino, also from Canada, also taking a provisional.
And in the 18th row, Billy Turner out of El Reno, Oklahoma in his Pontiac, and Doug Mayer in the no-touch Chevrolet will start alongside.
And rounding out the field, back in the 19th row, all by himself, Greg Freed in a Chevrolet. Well, the field will probably take a couple of extra laps here because of the cold temperatures. Put a lot of heat into those motors, get them ready to go racing.
Yesterday in qualifications, the cars were allowed 1 extra lap on the racetrack. There was some rain overnight, so the track is fairly green. They've only had 3 of 5 contested events here at Jennerstown Speedway. They do have some rosin down in the corners to help with the adhesion. And as you see, they come off of turn number 4. That black patch area is where the extra rosin has been laid down. So there should be some great racing, side-by-side racing all afternoon.
I think this is a pretty interesting fact right here that these guys have pretty much dominated this show so far this season.
Almost half the laps, and Sawinski the only guy to lead all 3 events, and this is Kevin Sawinski's 4th straight front row start. On the pole for the first race, and nothing worse than second in qualification since.
This is a half mile, and the one thing they say about this track is even though it's fairly flat, this is a track that you tend to race the competition more than you do the track like you would at Darlington. However, this is a track, if you don't race it with some respect, can bite you pretty quickly.
We've seen some big-time pileups here, and with a 9-degree banking, you know that's not a lot of give, and the cars are really going to have to be under control. The drivers are going to have the proper setup, and some of those drivers found it in qualifying, as we saw Mike Eddy and Scott Hansen and the veterans of ASA a little off in qualifying. We'll see how they rectified for it today.
Bill Barrett is driving the Speedy Pop car, and Dave Burns has more on that story.
Yesterday, they thought they had a perfect car except for horsepower. So this morning, after sleeping on it, they changed the motor right out of it. Now, one of the reasons why they thought they had such a perfect car was because the tires were right for the first time in '97. Their new tire person, Lisa Smokestad, sister-in-law of Ted.
She's been doing that as long as Ted's been in the series, and has really developed quite a reputation for knowing her way around a tire gauge.
And this year she's helped out Tony Raines, and she's helped out some other teams, and now she lives in the North Carolina area, and Bill Barrett's hoping for good things with the tire situation.
Well, her husband is a crew member for Scott Hansen, and we're set to go racing here at the Jennerstown 300 underway. Well, you see Alec Pinsino getting pretty squirrely in the back of the pack in the 93, but he keeps it together. Those cold tires probably slipping and sliding a little bit underneath him.
Kevin Sawinski is the point leader. He does not want to give up the 5 extra points you get for leading a lap. St. Amant wants that very situation. They were dead even at the start-finish line, and they continue to race side by side as we see the rest of the field through.
Yeah, they're almost going to make it single file, and they do. Sawinski will take the point. Gary St. Amant runs in second. Mike Miller is up to third in the red number 18. That's Bob Seneca's Bluebird back there in fourth, car number 84. Then it's still side-by-side racing with Junior Hanley and Buddy Schrock back behind them.
This will be the groove. That will be the optimum groove. We see Sawinski get a little wide off of turns 3 and 4, and Gary's a little bit lower. We see some passing off of turn number 4 here, but more importantly, turn number 2 appears to be where they can set these guys up, go in. You see the groove widens out from the yellow line at that point, and that's where you see a lot of drivers turning left and get underneath the competition.
Yeah, this can really be a good 2-groove racetrack.
And with the rosin down, it improves even greater. Mike Miller even went out in the early portions of practice yesterday, the driver of the number 18 car in third, and he actually said, I like the outside line as much as I like the inside. There's grip there. I tested it. I pushed myself to the limit where I thought I was going to spin out nearly. See everyone able to control it here, and he said the racetrack is great.
Mike Garvey, the winner of the last race at Pensacola, Florida, running in car number 8, the white machine with the blue numerals. Right behind him is Brad Loney, going with that consecutive streak of finishing every race in the number 33 Bun Saver car, the blue machine. And Tony Raines, the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series champion, yellow, red, and blue number 2 of Jim Daly.
He's going to run that Gilliland Enterprises car up to 5 events this season. It doesn't fit in, or it fits in nicely with his truck schedule, and he's back running some ASA. A lot of familiar faces and a lot of smiles when Tony walks through the pit area.
That's 7th, 8th, and 9th position right now as we make our way back up to the front of the pack.
Kevin Sawinski makes it perfect for the season. He's led now in this event, the 4th of the season. He's led in all 4 races. Gary St. Amant has not been too far behind him throughout the season thus far. He now runs second. In third is the AFC 1000 Pontiac of Mike Miller. Bob Seneca is in 4th, and that horrendous crash actually has left a dent on a pole in the infield that we saw Seneca and not crash here in 95 at the finish, and that's a constant reminder of how close the action gets and how spectacular the races can be here at Jennerstown.
Buddy Schrock in the red, white, and blue number 35, just in front of Mike Garvey, holding down 6th position at this point. Chasing Junior Hanley in that new white with the red paint scheme. Sponsor Kendall wanting to get that changed so they can read the Kendall a little bit better. Personally, I like the red, I think, better than the white.
I don't think Junior Hanley cares if it's green, white, yellow, or blue, or all of the above. As long as it's a race car, he can put his knowledge to. Really, he's designed the chassis as much as he can under the ASA rules to his specifications. One other thing on Hanley, he changed to a Chevrolet from a Pontiac body. He felt there was an aerodynamic advantage with the Chevrolet, and the team worked quite diligently the last couple of weeks. Crew Chief Kevin McCurdy really said the team worked hard all day, every day to get this car prepared here for Jennerstown.
Well, and on the flip side of that, in talking to Kevin Sawinski, who leads this race at this point, as we continue to watch this fight with Hanley, Schrock, and Garvey, he says, now running a Pontiac after running a Chevy last year, that the Pontiac is a little bit looser, which is great for flatter racetracks like what we're running on here. So he thinks that the Pontiac has some advantages, especially places like here in Milwaukee and some of the others we go to. And there's Kevin right there out front with the Pontiac body.
And Gary St. Amant was running a Ford the last couple of seasons. He's joined Bud Gebbins' West Michigan Chevrolet team with the Win sponsorship. He runs second. At every turn, you don't know if Gary's going to look inside or outside or if he's content now to follow. There are 12 laps complete here in the Jennerstown 300.
And here comes Tony Raines. Boy, he's flying up through the field. He's all the way up now, fighting for 6th position. And just a handful of laps ago, Jim, he was sitting back in 9th.
Tony Raines has led at Jennerstown, I believe, 4 different occasions, and it's just a matter of being smooth and being strong and asserting yourself. A lot of drivers prior to this race in the autograph session for the fans, they open up the gates before the race. I had a chance to speak to a number of them. He said it's a patient place to go. Crew Chief Chris Bradley for Joe Knott had mentioned how patient the drivers have to be.
Oh, and he gets into the back of Junior Hanley. Junior goes around. Buddy Schrock got loose. And it looks like Buddy was able to continue. Junior has gotten it straightened out and is headed back down the back straightaway.
Well, patience, I guess, was not the virtue there off of turn 2.
No. Aggressive racing style was more of the call. Rick Beebe is going to make a call down pit road in the number 23. We'll see if we can find out what the story is with him. So the first caution coming out on lap 14.
Early in the race, and the drivers that did not qualify so well, like Mike Eddy, they will actually stay on the racetrack and do what the leaders do. Track position is certainly something to watch and something to watch out for, and these teams have elected to stay on the racetrack thus far. Only 14 laps complete of 300. Now it looks like Joe Knott is joining Rick Beebe down pit lane.
Well, and Mike is all the way up to 14th position, too, by the way, after starting 25th. Now watch this. Tony Raines, that red, yellow, and blue car, carried a ton of speed into the turns, is what it was. Just got into the back of him. Not intentional, just got into him. Mike Garvey, Buddy Schrock hard on the brakes. Jack Landis getting through there as well. Watch it again.
This is the battle for the 6th position, and you see Hanley's rear end just lifted off the ground by the front bumper of the 2-car of Raines. He continues on, but could have been a whole lot worse, Ralph.
Could have been a lot worse for some of the quicker cars in the field. Well, Junior Hanley in the Kendall car still in the fight here as we have our first caution of the day. Stay with us. Plenty of racing yet to go from Jennerstown. They have just taken the green, and Kevin Sawinski leads them back into turn number 1 as we return to live action here at Jennerstown Speedway. Jennerstown 300 with the AC-Delco Challenge Series. 4th race of the 1997 season. Kevin Sawinski leads it in the black number 1, the 1-800 Army car. And they have had tremendous response from the Salvation Army, Jim. They're, of course, trying to raise money to help and supplies, I would say, to help the folks who've been hit so hard by the terrible floods.
There have been towns that have been wiped out, Ralph, in North Minnesota and especially Grand Forks, North Dakota. They really need your assistance. You can send a monetary donation, voluntary time with shelters or cleanup crews, or offer items such as cleaning items and clothing, because literally they've had their houses swept away due to heavy flooding in North Minnesota and North Dakota. 1-800-SAL-ARMY.
Rick Beebe, we told you, went into the pits just as we went to commercial break. Dave, what's the story with him?
Trying to avoid that accident, he slammed on the brakes and he sheared the mounting area for his brake assembly off of the right rear. Guys, all they could do was pull that thing off. Here it sits in the pits. Rick has no rear brake assembly on the 23 car. Meanwhile, the 48 car, Joe Knott, came in. They changed right side tires. He was complaining of being way too tight. Same story from Scott Hansen's pit, except Hansen's guys wouldn't let him come in to keep track position. And Hansen is having kind of a weird day already. On the warm-up lap, his transponder fell off of his car. That's how they do the scoring. And the dune buggy had to go out, pick it up, bring it back into the pits, and they had to attach it to Scott's car again.
Well, you might want to go check on Peter Consolino as well, Dave, because he just got up into the wall ever so lightly.
He saw the fast car coming of Rick Beebe. He made room for him, and unfortunately the wall found him before he got back in the groove. That's
the McDonald's machine of Consolino. And back up front with our leaders now. So that brake problem is really going to be a nightmare, I would think, for Rick Beebe. He came back out of the pits 36th, and he's picked up not a lot of spots now, but he's down 2 laps. He's picked up maybe 2 or 3 spots.
On the racetrack, he's the only car that's not on lead lap at this point. And as we continue racing, we find this man up front, Sawinski. Unbelievable. Last year he won 3 races, 3rd in the points, led the rookie. He's got the most money won ever in ASA history for a rookie. And he was the preseason favorite. He said that added a little pressure to the team, but also made him step up that much more and be ready the first race and thereafter. This team is extremely prepared for the season.
Gary St. Amant wins West Michigan Chevy Dealers Lane Automotive number 7. Said they came down here and tested about a week and a half ago, unloaded the car, and he said it was as good as the car he had at Jefferson, Georgia, which if you saw the race from Jennerstown Speedway, that is really bad news for the rest of the competition. He absolutely dominated that show until he made his own mistake and pitted when the team was not prepared for it.
Okay, led 224 of the 300 circuits there, and obviously looking for just leading 1 lap for those 5 extra points. He comes into this race top 5 in points, and how things shake out, every point counts. At this racetrack in 1992, Johnny Benson Jr. lost the series championship by 2 points. So those 5 extra points will pay off for St. Amant if he can get around Sawinski.
He's being chased right now by the number 18 AFC 1000, the red car of Mike Miller, and behind him is Tony Raines. Here's Brad Loney, who holds on to 5th position. Loney's got Mike Garvey right behind him in the white number 8. Loney says the only race, we got a yellow flag out again, Jim, and I'm looking for what it is for, but I don't see it anywhere on the racetrack. Maybe they spotted some debris somewhere. Oh, we got the Greg Freed car in turn number 1.
Up against the wall, it looks like he may have come to a stop, and we'll certainly see if Greg Freed can get that car refired in the GFC Motorsport Chevrolet. There we see the brand new paint job. He has the POW MIA sticker on there. Greg Freed certainly very active in POW MIA activities in Detroit.
Did a couple of tours of duty himself in the Vietnam War. So there you see the sleepy little hamlet of Jennerstown in the background, and here's some of the dedicated fans that have bundled up for the Jennerstown 300. There's Greg Freed out of the car as they put the number 80 on the hook, and he's looking into the engine bay. It looks like maybe something went wrong in the motor department.
Greg Freed is working with Harold Fair now, and Harold said we need to help out Greg Freed, and he did move into Harold's shop, did the Freed operation, and trying to get Greg Freed up to speed and helping him out with some setups, and unfortunately something under the hood there for Freed, and that will end his day early.
During that last pit stop, we had a couple of cars make their way down pit road, including Brandon Sperling, Junior Henley, and Steve Carlson. Now we have the opportunity to talk to Howie Leddow via radio. Let's see if we can catch him. Howie, this is Ralph Shaheen. Can you hear me?
That start, take her easy on the restart, but you got about 3/4 of an inch more split now, so.
Howie, this is Ralph Shaheen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, 10-4.
What did you do on the pit stop? We saw you brought Steve in.
Yeah, 10-4. I think the car's a little bit too tight right now to go out there and run with these guys, so we thought we'd come in and make an adjustment right off the bat and see if we can't get this clean burn Phillips 66 Trop Arctic motor oil car running a little bit better.
Howie, did you put 2 tires on or just 1?
We put a pair of lefts on.
All right, best of luck to you, Howie. We thought from up here in the booth we'd seen him just put one tire on, Jim, but I guess our Eagle Eyes weren't quite as good.
Those guys are so quick on that team that they probably had the left rear already in the truck looking at the tread wear, and we didn't have a chance to see that. But Howie's the man to know when there's problems here at the racetrack. He knows how to fix them. And
I've learned not to trust you. All right, well, we'll take a break here and step away. Some of the young fans enjoying it here today. We are back to Green Flag Racing. That's a fight for the top 4 spots as you watch Tony Raines get around the outside of Mike Miller there in the yellow, red, and blue number 2 to take 3rd. Tony has slipped up into that little outer groove there, and Jim, he's coming strong.
He's passing on the outside, and I don't know if it's Tony Raines or if it's Jim Daly's team. Steve Holtzhausen in 1995 took this car from 24th starting spot to the lead within the first 60 laps. Raines appears to be doing the same.
How's that for a charge? You got a glimpse of the 88 car. There you see him. He is all the way up to 7th position now is Mike Eddy, who started 25th on the day. So the Midland, Michigan native, he's coming.
The restarts have helped Mike Eddy's charge. Again, he did start well back in the field. On this restart, however, he passed 4 cars in the first 2 laps after green.
Well, this will be fun. He's tucked up right behind the other living legend in the series, Bob Seneker. The man in the blue number 84 has more wins than anybody else ever to strap into an ASA car. He's got 82. The guy in the black number 88, he's got more championships than anybody else. He's got 7. These 2 drivers have gone after each other for years in this series. They're going to go at it once again. Look at this. Eddy on the outside and Seneker giving him racing room, but not going to give him an inch, if you know what I mean.
Between them, they have 7 victories out of 10 races here on the AC-Delco Challenge Series circuit. And there goes Mike Eddy once again using the outside line. He
whistled right by him on the outside. That's an indication of how strong Mike's car is here. And boy, he's coming. Now, Brad Loney has dove into the pits in the Button Saver car. What's going on with the 33?
Not a good day so far, Ralph. Right rear tire, extremely flat, gone. They had to bring him in under green. He's already lost a couple of laps. They had to lift the car up, and Jeff Brown, the team manager from Junior Hanley, ran over to help out with that.
Couple of donuts as well on the side of the 33. He's done some rubbing and racing with some of the guys out there.
He's up in the 5th position, and right at that restart, apparently the tire was going down. Very ill-timed effort there for Brad Loney under green, losing a lap now to the drivers up front, led by Kevin Sawinski.
Mike Eddy is really flying right now. He's had a weird string of luck here at this place, hasn't he? You can see there that 11th place finish. Remember the year losing the championship to Refner here by...
Brian Refner had a brake problem in the first 40 laps of the race, similar to what Rick Beebe had.
Yeah, we all thought Mike had the title all locked up.
Yeah, the rotor exploded. They pinched off the brake line, similar to what Rick Beebe has, no rear brakes. Then Mike Eddy had a motor problem about 100 laps later, and Refner went on by for the championship. Look at this, Eddy on the outside again, Ralph.
He is on rails in that outer groove.
Mike Garvey in that AFCO Performance Pontiac had high hopes today. He ran here once in a super late model special, qualified 3rd and finished 2nd. This all-star team, of course, with longtime driver Scott Hansen, have run well here. They've also had Steve Carlson in the car for one event here at this racetrack, and Carlson was leading when his motor expired. So this team certainly has a thick notebook on Jennerstown.
That's exactly right. Mike Eddy, by the way, is all the way up to 5th now, and Seneker in the 84 car holds on to 7th. He's got the 07 of Jack Landis coming after him. That's the Noah Yoder machine. The Maisto 07, and that's a car that's had some pretty good success here at this racetrack. Todd Forbes was behind him.
Todd Forbes put that car on the pole for the first ever ASA race here back in 1990. Forbes in the field today in the brown and white number 98.
He's right behind this group. You can see that number 98 right there. He's racing with these guys. Todd holds on to the 10th position right now.
Steve Carlson has come down pit lane. The hood is up on the 87 car. He came down the pit lane. This is the racetrack where Tony Raines nearly lost the championship. The battery died for that Baker Motorsports team, and Raines is behind the wheel.
Go drive it around back.
I imagine.
How do I get back here? Does anybody want to show me?
If there's an opening, you're probably going to have to go back on the racetrack and then come in that, come back in the pit lane. Will it make it or not?
I doubt it. You want to have somebody go look and see if there's an opening?
There isn't until way down the end.
You just want to push it in there?
That far.
Well, I guess...
Howie, what if you back it up all the way to the end of pit row, at the start of pit row?
I just shut her down. We'll park it.
Well, I guess they can figure out the 4 turns around the racetrack, but figuring out how to get back behind pit walls is a whole other story.
Not a great day. 2nd in points for this team with rookie hopeful Steve Carlson.
And there's Todd Forbes on a charge with Bob Seneker in the 84, and coming up in the 52, having a pretty good run, Scott Hansen. Oh, and he got together with Seneker, and you can see it did a little bodywork damage on the right front fender of Seneker's car.
Hansen brought a brand new race car to the racetrack. He thought this one would handle a bit better, still getting used to the Pontiac bodywork. Put the motor in this car, and they towed on up, and they're having a good run this afternoon.
That's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, all the way back to 15th. You're watching it there. One of those cars, a 32, with new sponsorship, is Ted Smokestad, the Trip Blast back car.
He's working with Alec Pinsonneau this weekend in hopes of better and brighter things, but he has built a molded Trip Blast on the car. And as it turns out, Ted Smokestad said, Alec helped us right here at Jennerstown. We may down the road help Alec out with some setups and helping him out getting his car tuned in a bit quicker at the racetrack. So it could be a start of a relationship here between Alec Pinsonneau, the driver of the 93, and Ted Smokestad, the Smokestad Racing 32.
Well, while all that action's been going on, we got to take a look back at this fight here now for second place between Mike Miller and the reigning champ, Tony Raines. Raines in the 2, of course, and the red number 18 is Mike Miller, and they're trying to put some laps on Doug Mayer in the no-touch number 11.
Mike Miller won the season closer here a year ago. He led the majority of the final laps and kind of made it a stinker of a show as he had a car that was dialed in completely. His third victory of the season came in the last race of the year here at Jennerstown.
It was a career year for him.
Oh, yeah, it was a great year for Mike Miller.
Tony Raines in the number 2, giving chase, the man who claimed the championship last year. And let's go to Dave Burns, who's standing by with a guy who was hoping to be champion this year.
Well, Ralph, as you mentioned, that car had a problem here last year.
Dave, we got Turner Machine, the 58 car, spun over in turn 2, I believe it is.
Yep.
And so Billy Turner out of El Reno, Oklahoma, is going to get it going again. Dave, let's go back down to you now that we've set that stage.
Well, Ralph, we're going to talk with Steve Carlson while we got this little break here. And we said this car had problems here last year. What was it this time?
Well, this is my third time here, and my third time I've fallen out of the race. This clean burn Chop Arctic Pontiac, something in the clutch of the drivetrain broke. Better luck next time, maybe.
Well, and I know you've been around long enough to know that this is just a sort of a blip on the scale. You guys will be back.
Oh, yeah. See you the next race.
Okay, they're trying to get the car out of the way right now because the leaders are going to come and make pit stops.
Carlson finished 32nd in 92, running the Lampland Motorsports car. And, of course, here at Jennerstown and the Jerry Gunderman-owned All-Star Racing Team finished 34th. He dropped out while leading that race with a motor problem.
Well, the good news for Carlson, they found out this week the Trop Arctic will be on the side of that car for the entire 1997 season. So good news for them on the sponsorship front. Well, as the pace car circles around, some of the leaders are coming in. Sawinski stays out, but St. Amant comes in. He was running in 4th. Mike Eddy, who had fought his way all the way up to 5th, is coming down pit road. There's Dave Sensma, the red and white number 6. Steve Holzhausen's number 5. Seneker in the 84 is in. Junior Hanley is in. There is Mike Eddy's crew going to work on the Goodwrench service machine. And in Harold Ferris pit, the CarQuest Auto Parts machine and Dave Burns.
Yeah, they're getting right side tires on it. There is some oil on Harold's windshield. Tough to tell if that came out of his car underneath the airbox or if that came from someone else, but they are down and away. A little trouble with the left side tires on Harold's car.
Could this be the day that Mike Eddy ends his drought? Could it be a day that a drought begins for that team right there? Steve Carlson is out of it. Mike Eddy's in the hunt. Stay with us. The world-famous Mr. B doing our bumps for us this afternoon as we get back into the action here with the Jennerstown 300 with the AC-Delco Challenge Series. And we've just completed some of the first pit stop action for the top cars up front. And Kevin Sawinski was one of those that did not take advantage of it.
Mike Garvey is 17th on the racetrack. He beat all other lead lap cars out on pit lane. So we have 16 lead lap cars that stayed out on the racetrack, and
Dave
Sawinski
Burns?
holds them.
Yeah, Ralph, on Sawinski, one of the reasons why they wanted to stay out is because a lot of the teams think they can make it on 3 pit stops. If they would pit this early, it's going to take them 4. Meanwhile, quick update on Scott Hansen. They wanted to, actually, he stayed out, but a lot of them were having trouble with tightness in the turns, and that's the sticky stuff you guys were talking about, the rosin or the VHT. Now, as the green flag gets a little bit longer, their tires wear down just a little bit, and the cars break free a little bit. So everybody's tight at the start of the green flags, then they loosen up as it goes along.
Thing to center here is we were second-guessing Mike Garvey in the game last week as to the wear of tires. Garvey and St. Amant pushed it, what, 125 laps?
Yeah, actually Mike Garvey went 120 laps at the end of the race and won it, held off teams that pitted for tires a lot later in the event.
So if we go by that, with 67 laps in the book, heck, Zawinski's just warming those things up. Think he can go 125 laps today?
I think about lap 100 is what they shoot for on the outset at the coffee table in the morning before the race. They have their strategies planned out. This team has a team meeting before every event in the morning. They all get together around the pit area and discuss strategy, and I think that's what they're hoping for, about 100 laps before pitting.
Well, we've seen a lot of passes made on the outside groove today, but Mike Miller's trying to work that bottom line here, trying to get the nose of the AFC 1000 Pontiac, the red 18, inside of Sawinski's 1-800-SAL Army car.
Kevin Swinski has been the only race leader to this point. Mike Miller mounting the most serious challenge. Again, these cars did not pit. Continue to run extremely quick off the backstretch down into turn number 3 on this half mile in Pennsylvania.
And that could be a costly mistake, too, for Gary St. Amant, that he didn't get one lap led there and get those 5 points.
May have been his only shot. We'll see if Gary can make it back through cleanly.
This is a good fight going on back in 8th position. Ted Smokestad in the 32 and Brett Bell in the 56. Brett takes over 8th position. Here's 9th, 10th, and 11th, and that is Joe Knott in the Valvoline Raby Ford, number 48, the red car. Rick Beebe fighting his way up through the field. Actually is a lap down, 2 laps down still, so he is not racing for position, although he is racing on the track with him. But the one to keep your eyes on, Rick Miller, the 31 car. Good to see him back with the series.
He's running outside of the Bunsaber Pontiac of Maloney, who's down some laps as well with a green flag pit stop. He's down 2 laps for a flat tire. But yeah, Rick Miller, first race of the year. He's got that Baker Engineering motor underneath the hood. Brand new owner Jamie Bergman trying to make as many ASA races as possible. This is Rick Miller's home track, as he is from Dunbar, Pennsylvania, now running outside of Brandon Sperling. Sperling on a charge here, Ralph.
The 51 car right now on the lead lap, running in 14th position. Brandon ASA's own Mark Martin, a workout fanatic if there ever was one. Kid lives in the gym. Out of Southern California, his father Norm comes to all the races and sits up in the grandstands and spots for his son out on the racetrack. This is a team that has probably got the best consistent equipment they have ever had. Now running in 11th position. And we've got a yellow flag coming out on the racetrack. Want to take a guess, Trader? Oh, I see damage to the back of Mike Garvey's car, number 8. The 8 car getting together with Steve Holzhausen.
Holzhausen has some fender damage as well on the left front of his Finetti Motorsports number 5.
Yeah, look at the damage to the left front of Holzhausen's car. Wait till you see the back end of Garvey's machine.
The entire red recorder panel and some of the rear bumper are
There's Garvey
missing. Garvey's trying to get back to the pace car because he wants to come down pit lane. He's using the inside line to do that. And of course, Steve Holzhausen will do the same. With contact there, brings out the race's 4th caution.
So Mike Garvey in the 8 car is going to have to get some rear body work done to him. And it looks like Holzhausen's going to have it a little bit easier. All they'll probably do to him is just rip off that fender or tape it back up and get him back out. So Tony Raines, Scott Hansen, Ted Smokestad, St. Amant, and a bunch of others all make their way down pit road. We'll take an opportunity to take a pit stop of our own. Stay with us. We'll be right back to Jennerstown to do a little body work. Well, it's time to add to your diecast car collection because the Winston is on TV tonight at 7 p.m. And, of course, that means a lot of new wild paint schemes, and you can catch them all live on TNN Motorsports. The Winston tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's going to be fantastic. Just get all your new. You got Earnhardt Sweetie's car.
Yeah, I need the Dalmatian car yet.
The Dalmatian car from Michael Waltrip.
The Kodak car I'm looking forward to seeing. I haven't seen that yet.
And I saw the Jurassic Park car with Jeff Gordon. Looks pretty neat. Here's Mike Garvey's car, which he's going to need a new paint scheme as well, it looks like. He's got some heavy damage to the back of the number 8 car. And let's show you what caused this.
They're right in the middle of the screen here, Ralph. We see the white number 8. Cars are getting a little jostle there. Kofer gets a bit sideways ahead of the 55.
Oh, everybody checked up.
There goes the accordion. Mike Eddy checked up first.
Well, let's check in with Dave Burns.
Just a quick update on Mike Garvey and on Steve Holshausen. Holshausen has that left front. They think it's okay, but their problem now, they think Steve can hear them on the radio, but Steve cannot respond back. Might have hurt the radio in that altercation. Mike Garvey on the right rear, just a little superficial damage. Also earlier, Peter Cozzolino in the 40 car, he got into the wall. You can still see the mark up there, but they say Pete's okay.
Dave, you might want to check on Mike Eddy as well. It looked like he might have gotten tapped in the back end on that deal, and he's been a real rocket ship. I'll see if that bad luck streak continues with him. Might have knocked something out of whack in the back of the 88 car.
Happened very quickly, and you see the damage in the nose. You got it from both ends as they checked up off of turn number 2 a bit ago.
Well, we'll have to see how it affects the 88. Right now, Mike is listed in 14th position. As they go back to green, Sawinski's the leader, Mike Miller is second, then Jack Landis up to third, Buddy Schrock, Todd Forbes, that is your top 5. Brett Bell, Joe Knott, Brandon Sperling, Rick Miller, Dave Sensiba, the top 10. Robbie Pyle having a great run, he's up to 11th. Tim Sauter, Tim Taylor, who's been putting in a lot of good laps this year, he's running in 13th. And we work our way back behind that. We find Tom Jones, Junior Hanley, Gail Connolly, and Scott Hansen rounding out the top 20. The reigning champ, Tony Raines, sits in 20.
Trouble in turn number 3. It's Robbie Pyle going around.
And Gary St. Amant, Mike Kofer, Bob Seneker, a whole bunch of them. And St. Amant is stuck up. Look at the wheels spinning. He's trying to get off of the number 12, and it is just ain't gonna go.
He was vaulted backwards into Pyle's car. Pyle had spun. Contact from behind sent St. Amant going the opposite direction, and he literally backed up to the window, the windshield of Pyle's 12 car.
He's tried to go every direction he can to get off of that car, and he is stuck. Well, we said we've seen a lot of weird things at this racetrack over the years, and that's one of them right there. The 5th caution coming out on lap 83, and Gary St. Amant is stuck in the mud. We've all experienced that, haven't we?
The unfortunate situation is it's not just damage for Gary St. Amant, it's damaging his run in this race. Every time the leader goes by and the pace car goes by, he goes down another lap.
Here it is again. Look, Gary just backs right. You would think at that point he was worried about backing into the wall. Little did he know he was going to go up in the air.
Turned around there, and behind this was the Mike Colford car and a couple of others that checked up and were swept into the deal. Dick's Auto Parts, the sponsor, and Robbie Pyle's number 12, and not a good start to his ASA season.
Well, Bob Seneker was involved in that as well, and here's the damage to his car, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of a look you guys got at that, but the stationary look you see now, it's all over. Left front, the whole right side, the right rear tire was down as well. It looks like Bob has a lot of fiberglass damage, but it may not be much worse than that. Down pit lane for guys like Mike Kofer, who were just fighting a little stagger problem, the situation's much worse. And as for Mike Eddy, you wondered about him? Guess what? Not saying anything on the radio. He dove down pit lane to avoid the wreck. You should have seen the surprise on his crew's face when they weren't expecting him.
Well, as you can see, they have gotten Gary off of Pyle's car, and he's got some flat tires and some damage, so maybe they can get the wins machine back into the race and pick up some points towards the championship. Sawinski, smooth sailing out front to the sophomore. Well, we're back to the Jennerstown 300. There is the number 48, which started in 20th. Currently runs in 9th position. Let's talk to Joe Knott in the Raby Ford, the Valvoline backed entry. Joe, Ralph Shaheen, can you hear me?
Ralph. Joe, a pretty wild incident over there in turns 3 and 4. Were you anywhere near that, and what did you see?
No, actually, Ralph, we weren't anywhere near it. It's a pretty unfortunate situation for quite a few of the leaders there. I hate to see that happen. But, man, take a look at these guys up in front of me here. This tells you the amount of competition that this ASA series has got. We're just kind of biding our time here, seeing what we got, giving everything we got, and see if we can't get up to the front.
Well, it looks like from our monitor that you're doing pretty good here today. You fought your way all the way up inside the top 10. How is the car handling, and what can you expect out of it for the rest of the race?
Actually, it's handling pretty good right now. I think we could maybe make a few small adjustments and get a little bit better, but we got our pit strategy. We're going to stick to it, and we'll get it better as soon as we come in.
Okay, you been out on those rollerblades lately?
Actually, I haven't had a chance to. I've been doing a little bit of jogging here recently, trying to work my endurance up for the end of these races.
Okay, buddy. Have a good race out there, and best of luck to you.
Thanks a lot, Ralph.
Well, and look at this. Mike Eddy.
His car is completely stopped. He needs a push. He's telling the infield workers he needs a push for the 88 car. We saw some damage from an incident, an accordion incident there on the left front, but I don't think that's the problem for Mike Eddy.
It is just amazing.
He had a coil.
Horrible luck he
had a coil problem at Pensacola, Florida. The best starting position he's had this year is 19th. He's well back in the points. He's not even in the top 10. He was not in the top 10 at season's end a year ago, and it continues to be a snake-bitten run for Mike Eddy here in the ASA series.
If this is the first time you've watched an ASA race, let's just bring you up to speed a little bit on this guy. Of course, he is a 7-time champion. The last race he won was the season opener of '96 at Lakeland, Florida.
He backed it up with a win here in Jennerstown.
That's right.
Remember the little dog Oreo? That was a good
right.
luck charm. That dog is here this weekend, and I don't think you'll want that dog at the track again.
And he hasn't done anything since.
He's 18th in points. And this is not the way Mike Eddy wants to start the ASA season. He's at a 25th place finish with a brake problem, ignition problems, dropped to 28th at Pensacola. His season high is an 11th at Jefferson, Georgia.
Well, Mike Kofer's brought the Black & Decker car in pit road, and let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, as you guys saw, he took the brunt of that incident in the front end there, and they're going to have to pull out that whole radiator, try to get the cooling system back online for Kofer's Black & Decker Monte Carlo. Meanwhile, up pit road, Gary St. Amant had that rear tire go down as a result of the incident. They think he's okay, no damage there. Meanwhile, guys like Buddy Schrock, who's running 4th right now, just talked with his crew chief, Donnie, and he says, why not just stay out front where it's safe? His times are good, and so Buddy's just going to stay out there until things settle down a little bit.
Buddy Schrock circulating the racetrack in 4th position right now. Kofer, knowing him, being the PR machine that he is, he's probably been in town since about last week. Mike Kofer comes into towns early and spends a lot of time showing off that Black & Decker car. We'll be right back. We're back to Green Flag Racing with Kevin Sawinski out in front. Mike Miller, Jack Landis, and Buddy Schrock all chasing him. You look at the top 4 cars right there. Mike Eddy is back behind the wall. And Gary St. Amant, who started this race on the pole with a new track record, is all the way back to 28th position, 3 laps down.
3 laps of spinning his wheels on top of Robbie Pyle's car is making his afternoon just a bit longer. Here we see the Wynn Chevrolet back in full song, but it appeared that Mike Kofer was involved with the incident, as was St. Amant. And when Pyle spun in 3, St. Amant had nowhere to go and actually was beached on top of that car for 3 laps.
And he was 5th in the points coming into today's race.
Steve Holzhausen is also behind the wall, as is Steve Carlson, if you're just joining us.
Kevin Sawinski, the man who came into the event leading the point standings, is leading the race, looking for his first win in 1997. Having a pretty much of a trouble-free day so far.
Alec Benson on the trim class. Number 93 pulls to the bottom. He now goes another lap down. He had some ignition problems earlier, so he's a bit off the pace. And Sawinski has yet to forfeit the lead. This time around will be 100 circuits complete.
And Mike Miller has tested the waters a little bit, looked to the bottom quite a few times, but he seems pretty happy just to ride along in second. Doesn't seem to be applying too much pressure to Sawinski. I don't know if that's because he can't or if he's just comfortable being there right now.
At this point in the race, I believe Mike Miller and Kevin Sawinski are in the same position. They have yet to pit. Jack Landis has come up to 3rd. Buddy Schrock is in 4th. The very rejuvenated team. He and his brother Donnie took all the toys and whistles off the car to make it go faster. They actually went faster without anything but a basic setup under that car, as we heard in the opening portion of the broadcast.
Well, there you see Mike Eddy's car back behind the wall. Dave, what's the story?
Well, they broke a coil wire. I mean, coils are really bad luck for Mike Eddy this year. He's going to have to feed the coil wire back in through the firewall, back into the cockpit where the coil sits.
Well, bad luck continues for that team. And good luck continuing for Kevin Sawinski right now as he continues to run up front.
Early on in the race, Mike Eddy charged up from 28th starting position to battle with Bob Seneker for position. Seneker was involved in that last caution. He has 3 wins at this racetrack, but now he has to make up 2 laps after pitting and changing a flat right rear tire. He's 2 laps down to the field.
We mentioned that Sawinski and Miller have not pitted yet. We are working lap 103, about to go to lap 104. And we said how Mike Garvey and Gary St. Amant went 125 laps on tires last week at Pensacola. So I would think maybe the next yellow, they're going to have to come in.
And this racetrack is easier on tires. I had asked a couple of drivers prior to the race, including Scott Hansen. I said, how's the tire wear? He said, not a problem whatsoever at this racetrack. The corners hold you well. If there is a problem with the tire wear, there's enough of a racing groove on the outside line. You can actually drift the car in. It doesn't penalize you as much as the races we've run thus far with a little more porous asphalt. The tires aren't quite as shredded quickly.
The ASA Series runs a bias ply tire. It's a spec tire from Goodyear. It's one of their Eagle tires. It's about $100 a corner. Battle for 5th, Brett Bell having a tremendous day in the Wonder Bar, number 56 to 4th Thunderbird. Trying to snap a bad luck streak for him. Joe Nott, who we just spoke to moments ago via the radio, runs right behind him in 6th. Valvoline Raby Ford, number 48. And Rick Beebe, who is down 2 laps, is right behind him now. Rick has actually made up some spots. He is all the way up to 25th, but he is not on the lead lap. Let's go back to Dave Burns.
Yeah, Ralph, on Rick Beebe, they want to loosen him up just a little bit going into the corners. Because he has no right rear brake, he pushes real hard going in there because he has to kind of let it roll. So they're going to try to give him a little bit looser feeling when he comes back in next time.
Well, he's doing a pretty good job with it too, Dave, because he's, for a car that's supposed to be pushing, he's hugging that bottom yellow line pretty good.
And he has to worry about the car directly behind him, Brad Loney, who had a problem, a flat tire under green flag conditions. That 33 car, they're battling for position 2 laps down. So as we see him come off of turn number 2 behind this pack, and that is a battle for position indeed.
Here's Brett Bell.
25th and 26th.
On the outside of Nott. These 2 young Chargers having a pretty good battle.
Joe Nott has led twice here from 103 circuits. He got 2 top 5 finishes. He also sat on the pole position here for an event at Jennerstown Speedway on the AC-Delco Challenge Series banner. And I believe his crew chief, Chris Bradley, has a lot to do with the patience
Good job,
of this
Joe.
driver.
Good job.
That's Chrissy here right there, talking to his driver. Tim Taylor coming back out on the racetrack. You saw the white 28. Of course, Chris Bradley was the crew chief on Johnny Benson's championship-winning car.
In 1993, then he went to work with Glenn Allen Jr. He finished runner-up in the points. Glenn moved to the Busch Series.
Well, they've started to pull away a little bit from Brett Bell, haven't they? They got around him, and now Joe and Beebe have hooked up and pulled away. Remember, those 2 cars not racing for position. The battle for the lead starting to heat up a little bit. Maybe Mike Miller's going to test the tire wear now. Being the KG veteran that he is, he might figure that Sawinski might try to stretch the tires again later on in the day, and he wants to know how hard he can run on it.
And it's a matter of mind game. Mike Miller is lower exiting off the corner than Sawinski has been the last 50 laps or so. And if these drivers do happen to fit in sequence with Jack Landis, and he knows Mike Miller has a lower line, Sawinski has to nail the tire stagger. Otherwise, he may lose that spot quickly to Miller, as he's a lot quicker off the corner on the bottom.
On the box in the upper left, we're going to give you a full field rundown after 100 of the scheduled 300 laps. So take note of your favorite driver in the field at this point in the race. The half-mile speedway here in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania is where we are at. The AC-Delco Challenge Series coming to you live today. Round number 4 on TNN Motorsports. Big day of racing here on TNN. Capping it all off later on tonight with the Winston at 7 p.m. These guys are running a pretty solid and yet looks like comfortable pace that they've been on all day long.
They're certainly in a groove or in a zone, and as they come upon lap traffic, these 3 guys just fight it off and continue on. We see now Kurt Huff in the 66 car. I talked to him before the race. He said, we need to get this car more comfortable. We're finally getting to that point, but working out of the shops with his brother Aaron's team. A lot of work to be done with a team preparing 2 cars.
And Aaron's about the next one to go a lap down. He's just in front of them. There he is. And they'll work to the outside of him. Former motorcycle racer holding to the bottom groove and lets the leaders by. Mike Miller, the car that he is driving is some 3 to 4 years old. Bob Seneker's car is the same way, and Mike has picked up more victories with that car than he had in his entire career.
Mike Miller over 18,000 laps in this 18 car, and they have the cars labeled in the shop. One says do not touch, but on the dashboard of this 18 car, sometimes teams name their cars. This one is labeled this car.
The other one?
That car.
That's right.
And they have a spare that they haven't raced in 2 years. That's the other car.
Oh, and Greg Freed around again. And maybe this is the yellow with lap 119 that Kevin Sawinski is looking for. Him and Mike Miller, remember, have not pitted yet. Most of the other leaders have come out, this being the 6th caution of the day. We talked about that 125 lap mark that they ran at Pensacola on used tires. Let's see where they go now with 119 in the books. And Buddy Schrock has got a big problem with flaming brakes on the right front. As he dives down pit road, he's got a ton of smoke pouring out of that car. There he is. It's in the engine bay. It's more than the brakes.
Donnie Schrock already had the pin pulled on the fire extinguisher as
he's climbing right out of the car. He's already out.
a lot of fumes in a short period of time. A lot of oil smoke there. Now we see the white smoke. So the fire extinguishers appear to be doing their duties there on Big A Auto Parts. One major thing to worry about is the hood. Not only the driver are we concerned about it, but if they lift the hood and there's a fire under there, it will flare up, and that's certainly what they don't want to happen.
He was able to climb out of the car, and you see him there gasping for air, it looks like. And when they hit those fire bottles, it does kick up a lot of stuff inside the car, and it looks like it did a pretty good job of putting the flames out. Buddy trying to capture his breath. Emergency services crews there, as well as some of the ASA officials, and they're going to help him with his helmet. See if he's, well, there's Mike Miller in the pits.
Kevin Swinski already down and away. He elected to choose the first pit stall off of turn number 4. Mike Miller, the very first pit stop down at turn 1.
That could have been really tricky for Miller, too, because as you can see, he's pitted just in front of Buddy Schrock where all this activity is taking place, and could have been very difficult for Mike to get in and out of the pits.
Well, the emergency crews are right there with Buddy Schrock, Ralph.
And the good news is it looks like Buddy is going to be okay. Well, another one of those interesting moments here at Jennerstown. Welcome back to TNN Motorsports coverage of the Jennerstown 300 AC-Delco Challenge Series, and hardcore 4x4 for Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn is TNN Motorsports' first video game. It has 6 different trucks with their own handling and 4-wheel independent suspension. You'll see fenders crunching, wheels busting, and doors flying off. If you're a racer and you like games, check out TNN Motorsports Hardcore 4x4 for Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn, wherever video games are sold. Take my word for it, it is a lot of fun, especially on that 9-foot monitor wall they got at the Motor Madness set. Boy, you're like in the, I mean, you are in it.
Sounds like you're pretty hardcore on that deal, Ralph.
Oh, yeah. Here's what happened to Buddy Schrock just moments ago.
He came down pit lane. You mentioned the fire already was underneath the hood of the car. As he came down pit lane, his pit is at the very end. Buddy was unstrapping as the crews were putting out the fire, climbed out of it, and fortunately, he's all right.
And well enough, we hope to talk to Dave Burns.
Well, he is, and what started out as a great day ended kind of in a ball of flame there. Buddy, what happened?
Well, I was having a ball. That car was hooked up, haven't pitted, the old tires, just biding my time. I've never been so happy in a race car in my life. And caution come out, and I saw some flames under the hood. I said, what's going on? And I got to the end of pit road down here, and it just filled up inside instantly with smoke. Didn't know what it was, and I figured I could get to the guys quicker than somebody could get to me. So I come on down pit road, and I mean, tell you, the time I got here, I thought I was gonna die. Man, I want to go back out and race that car some more, though. That big 18 Unidal car, Dave, I'm telling you, I think we had something for the boys today.
And I think what he's saying is if there are any relief drivers needed today, he's got all that smoke coughed out and he's ready to go back. Guys, down in the one pit, the points leader and the race leader, Kevin Swinski, they changed right side tires on him, but they didn't change a thing for him. They loved the car, and the tire wear looked very good on Swinski's car.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how far they can go, Jim, as we go back to green on lap 128. This one is scheduled for 300.
So as Swinski pitted, he gave up the lead to Junior Hanley. The last time Junior Hanley led an ASA event was in 1990 at the Milwaukee Mile when he won that event in his Ford. So first time since 1990, Junior Hanley has led a lap here in ASA. He finished 5th in the points that season as well, Ralph. This is his next and second campaign for the championship, and he's got a long way to go. Unfortunately, Junior's had some problems this season. Had a brake problem and an engine problem, 2 29th-place finishes to start the year. Wound up 10th after smacking the wall in Pensacola a race ago, and certainly looking strong here in this brand new Chevrolet livery here. Shed the Pontiac, put the new Monte Carlo body on there.
Yeah, he's getting challenged from Tony Raines. Look at this, 3 wide. Sensiba, Turner, Taylor, Sawinski, and Joe Knott get in the middle. Kevin Sawinski better be careful. He's had such a great day. Doesn't want to mess it up by racing with some back markers like that.
Tim Taylor unfortunately spent some time behind the wall. The 28 car not up to speed. It's his first trip here as the Indianapolis driver in the white 28. Made things interesting a lap ago. Scott Hansen.
Yeah, we've got a problem with the 31 car. Rick Miller is involved.
Scott Hansen also involved in that tangle off of turn number 2, just ahead of the pack we were showing you there.
And Rick was running up in 4th position.
Boy, what a tough break there.
And Hansen was right there with him. They were 4th and 5th. You can see some damage done to Rick Miller's car. For some reason, Jim, I think the leaders got on the brakes just in front of them. I'm not sure why. Let's see if we can figure this out. There's Junior and Tony Raines.
Lap car to the inside is Aaron Huff off of turn number 2. You see the 52 there of Hansen.
You know what? Junior and Tony Raines got together in that very same incident a little bit earlier. If you remember, Tony ran in there deep. Do you think Junior was paying him back by brake checking him a little bit?
It cost Hansen some track position, and it certainly didn't do Rick Miller any favors. It very possibly could be. Hanley is a very crafty veteran.
Oh boy.
Short track racing.
Oh boy. Well, we could have some pretty interesting things going on here with Junior Hanley and Tony Raines. Could be fun to keep our eyes on. Hi, Aunt Bev and Uncle Kev. Hope you're enjoying the race like we are. Welcome back to Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. Now, you got some great Motor Madness stuff coming up your way. Coming up Friday night on Motor Madness, it's live sprint car racing. Pennzoil World of Outlaws take their wheel-to-wheel combat to Williams Grove Speedway. Make sure you join in Katie Haas for the Channel Lock Spring Classic Friday night at 8 Eastern on TNN Motor Madness next Friday night. Then on Friday, June 6th at 8 p.m., ASA Racing makes its debut on TNN's Motor Madness. Make sure you join us for 300 laps of live short track racing at Tri-City Speedway in Auburn, Michigan. The Mid-Michigan Chevy Value Leaders 300. That's the first time ASA will be on Motor Madness as we go back to green. And here's that Tony Raines Junior Hanley battle. Junior in the white 72 at the Kendall sponsorship. And Tony Raines going to the outside, and is Junior drifting high on him?
Boy, Hanley sure surprised Raines. I think Raines was fully set on going to the outside in turn number 3. He'll have to wait this time as Hanley takes the middle of the racetrack.
Now, Junior making that 72 a little bit wide out there on the racetrack.
Don't think you like the tap early on in the race that caused the first caution 14.
Oh, and look at this. Now Raines will dive to the bottom, and I don't think Junior can dig down there quick enough. What a great fight for first between two of the best short track drivers in the business. Tony Raines, the reigning ASA champ, driving in Jim Daly's number 2, and the best stock car driver ever to come out of the great country of Canada, on the outside in the 72, having at it.
Ted Smokestead in the mix now on the build-a-mold trim class 32 car. Well, those guys are going side by side. Smokestead has closed in, and now Bob Seneker joins the chase in the 84.
And Tony will clear him and put Junior in his rearview mirror.
Keep in mind, Seneker is 2 laps down, so he'll steer clear of this lead battle for now, but he certainly is quick on the racetrack.
And here comes Smokestead to get his nose in it. Dave, you got more on this?
Well, Junior Hanley, guys, they're explaining a loose problem on the car. I don't know if that explains the problem earlier before the last incident and the trouble that Tony Raines had getting around, but that's what they're saying anyway. Just to note, Mike Eddy is back on the track. Also, Kevin Sawinski and Joe Knott came in again to make sure they had a total of 4 semi-fresh tires around the cars. And also, Rick Beebe got a lap back, and they were able to loosen up the 23 car.
Well, Ted Smokestead better be careful, or he might incur the wrath of Junior, because he got into the back of Junior and got his rear end loose a little bit.
Tony Raines is now taking lead, the 3rd different leader of the event. Kevin Sawinski led the first 121 laps, and Hanley took over, and now at lap 142, it's Tony Raines out of LaPorte, Indiana, the leader. Hanley running 2nd. Smokestead now a little bit loose off of turn number 3 and 3rd. Seneker is 2 laps down, then Dave Sensiba in that West Michigan Auto Auction number 6 is 4th.
And Dave really coming up strong in 4th position. Here's a fight for 5th. There's Scott Hansen in the 52, Jack Landis in the 07, and the red 18 of Mike Miller. And you can see they were doing a little rubbing down there just seconds ago.
And Ralph, we mentioned on that 6th caution, the 31 car of Rick Miller and Scott Hansen were both involved in the spin. Hansen kept going. If the car keeps going on the racetrack, you don't get sent to the back of the pack like a short track feature. You get the position you assume back in line. When the caution flag flew, Hansen was already rolling. he maintained position now, and he's running 6th on the racetrack with Tim Sauter moving up from 10th on the last restart. He's gained 3 spots in that 55 car.
Harold Fair right with him as you look all the way back through 10th position. And what a great fight here is Jack Landis. This youngster has really done a great job in Noah Yoder's Maisto back forward. He's to the bottom groove. Rains, Hanley, Smokestad, Sensiba, Miller, as in Mike, your top 5. Jack Landis, Tim Sauter, Harold Fair, Scott Hansen, and the Doctor, Yale Conley, in 10th. Bill Barrett is 11th. Todd Forbes, Brandon Sperling, Tom Jones, Kevin Sawinski rounding out the top 15. And Mike Garvey, Joe Knott, Peter Cozzolino, Brett Bell, and Rick Miller rounding out the top 20.
And as we just saw, the 5th spot changed hands. Now Jack Landis has taken it. This is the battle for 7th.
And they go side by side. Sauter on the outside and Harold Fair on the bottom. 20 cars on the lead lap as we are working lap 147 of a scheduled 300, almost halfway home.
Harold Fair approaching 250 career starts, and Tim Sauter, running for Rookie of the Year, came into this race 9th in points. 8th in points, excuse me, and has a great run going here at Jennerstown.
And another caution flag waving at the 8th one of the day. And I'm looking over the racetrack once again, Jim. Any ideas?
There's
debris
a
on the
number
racetrack.
of cars out running on the racetrack without fenders, and even if they had fenders, apparently there's some debris from one of the machines. We see Tim Taylor running without the left front fender. The entire front clip of Mike Kofer's car.
There you go, right there. A little piece of debris sitting. Oh, just got hit too. It's right on the front straightaway, just in front of the flag stand. Well, we'll take advantage of it to make another pit stop. Our tire's not lasting as well as some of the cars out of the racetrack. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more from Jennerstown. Mr. B doing a wonderful job working the controls back there in the editing portion of the truck, giving you a quick highlight look back at some of the things that have happened here already today. Saw Mike Miller, you see there, dive down pit road, as did Junior Hanley and Ted Smokestad and quite a few others, and everybody took on right side tires. Now, Mike Miller was the one car that was on the same pit stop pattern as Kevin Sawinski, and he will be off of that.
Well, they pitted on lap 121 for the first time. And then they both came back in on lap 132 to get the other side tires. You can only change 2 under any caution in ASA, so Mike Miller not happy with the setup there in the stagger.
Steve Holzhausen's had a rough day in the 5, as you can tell from the lack of body work. Dave Burns?
Yeah, early on, Ralph, it was just a fender gone. Then they got into some more trouble, and they had to replace the whole radiator on that car. Now, here's kind of a replay of the radio chatter among the car owner, Don Finetti, Steve Holzhausen, and his crew chief, Dave Mark. Don Finetti, well, maybe we ought to park it. Steve, can you get 4 tires on it pointing the same way? Don, I'm sorry, that was Dave. Yes, we can. Steve says, I want to drive it.
This guy's not afraid to go out there and go back into battle and pick up as many points as they can. This race has been kind of unique in that it's been a lot of action on the racetrack, but not necessarily at the front. I mean, we've only had 4 different leaders, and we've only changed the position 3 times, but there's been some tremendous racing out there.
Certainly has been, and now Dave Sensiba takes the point for his shot at the lead here.
This is a team that I think is about to just unleash themselves on this series. Dave has been right in the thick of things week in and week out, on the verge of picking up a win for Leroy Troop, but he's just had a couple of things go bad luck-wise that just have kept him from finding his way to victory lane. And talking to him before the beginning of the race, I asked him, I said, Dave, what's the one thing you need to find that win? Just a little piece of good luck would be all it takes.
Sensiba did lead the race a year ago in the July event. He started this afternoon's run well back in 15th, but he's made his way to the front. He was running up on the lap car of Dennis Latman at the time, and he was leading the event. He thought it was a situation where he may have been too aggressive at that point in the race, and it really made him reflect on how aggressive he is and how patient he must be on the racetrack. He ended up spinning a year ago while leading, and now he's back at the point for the second time in 1997. Sensiba leading with Leroy Troop's equipment.
Whoa, we got Yale Conley going around on the front stretch. Peter Cozzolino around, Brett Bell around. We're going to stack them up coming out of 4. We got a whole bunch of guys involved in this one. Doug Mayer is backwards. One of the Huff cars is backwards. You know, I can't believe I have to say this again, but Brett Bell, once again, has been bitten. Here's a guy who, there you see him, the Wunderbar 56, was right up in the thick of things earlier. Due to pit stops, he had fallen back, but he was well inside the top 20. At that point, he was 14th or so, but he's been up inside the top 5 today, fighting for the win, and he gets bitten once again. Yale Conley there, he sits in the 3, and Peter Cozzolino in a team car to Joe Knott. You see the McDonald's car, that's the second involvement I think he's had today with the wall.
Brushed the right side to 1 point. It's also his second career ASA race, the former USAC sprint car driver. Running 5 to 7 events. He's a crew member on Knott's team and got McDonald's to help him out with some ASA runs this year.
Doug Mayer was involved as well. The no-touch number 11 gets his turned around and headed off. And Aaron Huff in the 86 still sits facing the wrong way in his car. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Yeah, Ralph, and Aaron's been bouncing around just a little bit today. Earlier, Aaron and Greg Freed, the red number 80, were involved, and on Freed's car, they actually had to replace an outer tie rod, and a right front tire had gone bad on him, so Greg has had a terrible vibration all day long. So things continuing to struggle for Aaron Huff. Yale Conley, trouble for him after being back in his car. Remember, he had to sit out a week, and I know this isn't the way that he wanted to end things.
No, the doc could not make it to Pensacola, Florida, because he had to be a doc. Had to perform surgery, could not get behind the wheel, so Harold Fair Jr. filled in for him. And I think if we get a chance to take a look at the replay, we'll see that it was right at the beginning that Yale Conley was involved. See the 3 sideways.
Got awfully tight off at turn number 4 as Conley went right through the middle of traffic. What a great job by Mike Eddy there, Todd Forbes. Cozzolino spun to avoid initially, then Brett Bell got swept up on the outside wall, and all the other guys just got on their brakes quick enough to stop. Then it was a mad dash to the start line, because that's how they'll line them back up single file on the restart. Here's another angle of it, and you can see the cars are stacked up on the outside. The spotter's doing a great job there. Tom Jones, a masterful move to the inside, and all the other drivers now breaking free there. But Conley could not fire his car. He was trying to fire it. It still stalled. There you see him trying to hit the ignition button, and finally, looks like Jack Landis gets back going.
Rick Martindale, the owner of Wunderbar, has been patiently supportive of Brett Bell back home in Vacaville, California. The 56 car, one of these days, Brett, it's going to snap and you're going to find yourself in victory lane. Could be Dave Senseman's day today. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Good Wrench service dealer. We want your business. Well, these folks are weathering the cold, and Dave Sensiba is weathering the attacks from behind him. There he is. He is out front. Let's get a word with him. Dave Sensiba, Ralph Shaheen with TNN. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dave, how's it going out on the racetrack? How deep are you able to drive into the turns as we reach the 162-lap mark of the race?
I'll tell you, this West Michigan auto auctions car is really sticking pretty good going in. The track hasn't loosened up as much as we had anticipated it.
With 163 laps to go, how are you going to change your pit strategy as we close in on this one? Are you going to make just one more stop?
We got to make one more stop, and then we're going to go.
Well, best of luck to you, Dave. Let's check in with Dave Burns as well.
Scott Hansen's pit, they need brake fluid. Scott's losing some brakes, and they also pulled out the right front after that incident to try to get it off the tire, the right front body work. Meanwhile, Todd Forbes, the 98 car, has been having a great day out there. The only problem is the car is tight when the green comes out, and he says he's never getting enough green flag laps to get the thing loosened up and go faster.
Well, we want to thank the folks at Racing Electronics for supplying us with the great radio communications as we go back to green.
Todd Forbes runs 7th, and on that caution, unfortunately, Brett Bell was up to 4th, and Peter Cozzolino was up to 9th in the McDonald's machine. They are now working the bugs out on those 2 cars as they had some body damage, and Senta was awfully strong. He and Seneca, I think, will get a groove going here. Seneca is 2 laps down. He wants to get that lap back.
Harold Fair is actually in 2nd place. That's the car 3rd on your screen, the white number 81. What a great run for Harold. This is a guy whose biggest problem has been burning his feet as of late.
He's very happy that he said, hey, Jim, look at me. I'm actually walking normal. The right side of his foot was burned. Apparently it was an oil line tucked in right below the floorboard. He had switched to a Port City chassis this year, and he had said that somehow the oil line, which reaches 2,000 degrees in temperature, comes from the back where the oil reservoir is up to the engine, and that gets extremely hot. Unfortunately, burned his foot big time the first race. He's finally now healing.
Tim Sauter, who is challenging for the Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year award, sits third in the racetrack right now in that white with the wildly blue striped number 55. And Brandon Sperling right behind him in fourth position in 51. And Brandon in that black car is running with the Buick motor. He's been running a K-Tech Chevy motor and had problems, had lost the oil line and oil filter and all that got knocked off in a crash last week. So he wasn't able to get the K-Tech put back together in time for this week. So he has shifted to a lesser horsepowered Buick motor. But he said it seems to be hooking up and running fine here this weekend.
This is a flat track, only 90 degrees banking in the turn 6 on the straightaways, and just behind him is the one car of Kevin Sawinski. His T-Zar motor is certainly strong as he led the early portions of the race, the first 121 circuits. He's now back up to 5th.
Behind them comes Joe Knott, Mike Miller, Todd Forbes, Tom Jones, Ted Smokestad rounding out your top 10. Mike Miller, Mike Garvey, Bill Baird, Tony Raines, Jack Landis, and Junior Hanley rounding out the next group of 5. Harold Fair up into second place.
Harold is certainly a trooper. He's actually won 2 of his 5 events coming off of major injuries. He had gallbladder surgery in 1989. He won a race at Berlin Raceway. He also had some other minor surgeries right before a win that I can't recall right now, but it seems like once he's down, that gives him more will to win.
The other thing Harold Fair has going for him is the strongest grip I think I've ever shown hands with.
Lifelong mechanic, just sold his auto repair and gas station in Detroit to focus full-time on racing a season ago, and you're right, he's got some big hands, and they certainly can hold some wrenches.
You better be prepared if you're going to go grip with Harold Fair. Rick Beebe, the 23 car. Down 2 laps still, but has been charging his way through. He's up to 18th position, down 1 lap now. Torch, the official score for the ASA television shows, brings us up correctly. So he's playing with the pit stops, getting a lap back. One of the quickest cars on the track, but he's up to 18th. Too bad he lost those 2 laps with the brake problem.
He has no rear brakes either, so maybe that's a tip to the rest of the teams here at Jennerstown Speedway, where maybe they'll put less brake bias in the rear. It seems like it's working for Rick Beebe.
Right behind Kevin Sawinski's 1-800-SAL-ARMY. Once again, trying to help raise support for the folks stuck in the terrible floods in the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. The team said they got a tremendous amount of calls during the Pensacola race from, and we've got the car around over in turn number 2.
Tim Taylor.
And also one of the Huff cars. You saw Taylor, and there's Aaron Huff right there in the 86. That'll bring out a yellow. That is the 9th caution of the day, 10th caution of the day. This one coming out on lap 175 of the scheduled 300.
125 laps to go, Ralph. I believe Sawinski and the rest of those guys in the top 5 will be coming in for what could be their final pit stop.
Yeah, this is really going to be interesting to find out. We'll take the opportunity to take a look at this and see what these guys are going to do, because, like you said, some of them were saying just a couple of pit stops. Sawinski in a position now, if we saw him go 120 laps earlier.
If you're going to go, you got to go with them. There you go.
Patrick Hauser and Dave Sensible
I
chatting.
think we got to stay on a little longer and then one more stop.
Oh, and we've got Harold Fair is into the pit area. Now, one of the things we got to comment on that, you heard Dave Sensible saying that he wanted to stay out a little bit longer. One of the things he told me he needed to do was get on pit strategy with the leaders, but if he was leading, he was going to set his own strategy, and that's what he's deciding to do. Well, look at this. One of the balloons, the AC-Delco spark plug, has deflated. They give you great spark, but not a lot of...
That balloon has been at the racetrack but never had track time until now. So now that spark plug certainly is working trackside.
Well, we're going to try to inflate the balloon and get ourselves organized here. Dave Sensible, gambling on pit strategy. Welcome back to Jennerstown Speedway. Let's check in with Dave Sensible once again. You hear him talking? Dave, Ralph Shaheen from TNN.
Go ahead, Ralph. Dave, you told me before the race that you were going to have to pay attention to pit strategy with the leaders. Here you are leading, and you're working your pit strategy out. Are you comfortable with it right now?
Really are. The car's really working good on the long greens. These yellows are hurting us a little bit, but I think we want to go with one more stop. About 70 laps to go. We should be good to go for the rest of the race.
All right, Dave, hang in there and good luck to you today.
Thanks.
Well, we want to thank the folks at Racing Electronics for helping us talk to the drivers, and here's your opportunity to win a Uniden Bearcat scanner along with a 1-year Racers Frequency membership from Racing Electronics. Just send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 241921, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. We'll announce the winner during each ASA telecast on TNN throughout the year. So send in your card today. Now this week's winner is Vivian Brown from North Quincy, Massachusetts. Vivian, enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics like we do here on the TNN live broadcast.
That was
Dave Burns has got a little bit on Tony Raines, the reigning champion.
Well, that champion was hired by Jim Daly this weekend to drive the 2-car, and right now they love what it's doing. They're just trying to stay out of all the wrecks that are happening. They confirm what Dave Sensiba just said. They want to come in between lap 220 and 230, bolt on some right sides, and go to the end.
Now we'll keep our eyes on that. Sensiba, Tim Sauter, Kevin Sawinski, Mike Miller, Tom Jones, the top 5.
Tom Jones has had 4 top 10 finishes, 3 in the top 5, and of course his lone victory here in his 204th career start in 1993. Jonesy's always in the hunt here at Jennerstown. He had a problem getting here, as a matter of fact. The Zero Hero had a brake problem with his hauler. Didn't show up till this morning. Took a provisional start.
After this guy,
well, there is the Zero Hero right there. Tom Jones racing with Tony Raines.
Another one coming.
And as you listen in on some of the spotters communicating, that's the fight for the lead going on.
Tim Sauter from Necedah, Wisconsin, second-generation driver, one of 11 children of Jim Sauter, and older brother Jay, of course, running the truck series, but he is certainly showing the way here. 8th in points coming in. 3 consistent finishes coming into this event, no worse than 11th on the afternoon of any ASA event this season. Leo Motorsports team now trying to hold off the 1-car Sawinski as he's coming to the front.
Well, you saw, whoa, look at Rick Beebe sliding it right in there.
Sawinski had contact with a 55, opening the door for Beebe. Again, he's a lap down, and once he catches Dave Sensiba, he'll be back on lead lap if he gets by.
Well, and he is by far one of the quickest cars on the racetrack, and Bob Seneca was 2 laps down, and he worked real hard to get a lap back from Sensiba. So Dave can't afford to let too many of these guys get their laps back because they're pretty quick cars, and they get back at the tail end of the lead lap with just a little less than 150 laps left. Boy, it could be real tough for him.
Watch this going into turn number 1. The blue and white 55 is Sauter. As Sawinski goes to the outside of Beebe, they touch here as Sauter tried going up the racetrack. They touch, allowing Beebe to get underneath both those cars.
Boy, they did a great job. And look at Mike Miller coming right with him in the 18. Great short track racing here with the veterans of the ASA series. Sawinski, Sauter, Raines, Mike Miller.
Mike Miller certainly has made the charge to Sensiba. Bob Seneca got by a race leader ahead of this pack here in the 84 Bluebird, maybe holding up the leader as now Beebe looks to get back on lead lap.
There's that fight up front, and Sawinski and Seneca are trying to get those laps back, and Sensiba moves to the outer groove, and he might put them right back where they started.
Seneca got him on the restart, but Sensiba has a quicker car at this point.
Well, now this is a really tricky situation for Dave. You don't want to let these guys get their laps back necessarily because they're obviously quick, but you don't want to get in an incident while racing with guys that are 2 laps down. Looking for that first ever career win is Dave Sensiba. Could it be today? Now Rick Beebe to the bottom. Spotters warning Dave where he's coming at him. This, I believe, would put Beebe back on the lead lap. And that's not something Dave's going to be real happy about. Look at Beebe's car sliding around. Great control of that race car. Sensiba giving him plenty of racing room, but doing everything he can to hold him back.
Beebe trying inside. Again, he's handicapped without that rear brake situation. They had the rotor explode on an early race caution. He got on the brakes hard enough to rupture the brake apparatus in the right rear. They ripped it off the race car, pinched off the line, and Beebe now is fighting the leader. Thinking maybe he was hoping he was only one lap down. This would be the battle for the point, but Beebe's looking to get back at the end of the tail end of lead lap.
Well, you heard what they just said. The man's crazy. Don't race him too hard. Well, Dave takes the words cautiously and lets Rick Beebe go. I don't know about crazy, but he's awfully quick today, I can tell you that. Rick Beebe now on the tail end of the lead lap, and he is one of the quickest cars in the field.
And here comes Mike Miller. The door was opened by Beebe. Looking at Miller getting the charge of the AFC 1000 anti-friction compound sponsored machine out of Marietta, Georgia. Four-time ASA winner Mike Miller now trying to back up his win last fall here at Jennerstown with another victory in this half mile.
19 cars on the lead lap. If we get another yellow, Beebe could be a player here. There's quite a few laps left to go. A little over 104 laps left. Tony Raines. I don't think Raines is done here yet either, Jim. He's up to third. And the reigning champion might be able to find a victory for Jim Daly. And Jim Daly, the car owner of the two, is the kind of crew chief who can show up on occasion and pick up a win. Did it at Minnesota State Fair, what, a year or two ago?
Right, Bobby Gill in 1995, that team's only victory, and Holtzhausen had this car to the front. Tony Raines, Scott Hansen have all shared the driving duties. Jerry Foyt, AJ Foyt's son, had this ride for a season. Gary St. Amant ran here at Jennerstown extremely strong in running a season for Daly. But
Tom Jones on pit road, and Junior Hanley slides into the wall on the inside of turn 4. And that'll bring out a yellow, the 12th of the day. And guess what now? Rick Beebe is at the tail end of the lead lap. 19 cars are on the lead lap, and there's the 19th. Can he do it?
Beebe will have his work cut out for him. However, if the leaders elect to pit and go 100 laps to the finish, which we are approaching here in one lap here, it'll be 200 laps in, 100 to go. Sensiba and the other driver we talked to want to go 70 to the end window. It may not happen.
Well, pit strategy is going to be pretty interesting. And look at Sensiba's down on the bottom side here. Let's see if he dives down pit road. Remember, Dave said he was going to do what the leaders did on pit strategy. Well, he is the leader. So now you got to gamble. What do you think the rest of them want to do? Here comes Dave Sensiba down pit road.
All right, buddy, bring her down pit road here. Bring her on down pit road. Looking good.
Tony Raines is in.
Hey, Bill standing out there. Let's go. Here we are. Bring it in. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Right there.
So he almost slid over the line. Sawinski is in. Rick Beebe missed his pit stop.
He had to go around the 55 of Sauter and a couple of other cars in. Smokestad and Garvey. Junior Hanley was in front end damage, brings out the 11 caution.
They do a good job of servicing Sensiba's car. They're going to change rear tires only on Rick Beebe's car.
Interesting move there.
Yeah.
Gary St. Amant changed rears at Pensacola, Florida, as did race winner Mike Garvey, and they went 120 laps on the rear change.
Well, we've got 100 laps left. We have just completed 200 laps here with the Jennerstown 300. Pit strategy, it's all over now. They should be able to go all the way. It's going to be up to the guy behind the wheel from here on. We are back and we are green here at Jennerstown. Gary St. Amant, there you see him, the 7 car just got around Mike Miller, who is your leader. That puts Gary 2 laps down as he was 3 laps down as they went back to green. But he made that pass and he's pick up at least 1 lap. Mike Miller looking for his second victory in 1997. Leads it as they come off at turn number 4. He is also in the middle of this points chase too, is he not? This is a day that could really help him. He came into this event 7th in the points after picking up a win earlier in the season.
He won the opening race, first time he ever led the points, and he had an axle brake drop to 11th in the points. Now he's back to 7th, so he's hoping that roller coaster is going back uphill to the point lead.
Bill Baird rides along in 2nd place in the 26 Speedy Pop car. Harold Fair, Jack Landis, and Scott Hansen up into 5th. Kenny Schrader and Rick Hendrick. Yep, that Kenny Schrader and that Rick Hendrick, the car owners on that machine. Rick Miller, Todd Forbes having a great day inside the top 10. His first race in 97.
Tony Raines is running in the next spot, and he came down and pitted. He actually beat Kevin Sawinski's team out of the pits. Yeah. I believe it or not, Raines was 12th at lap 170. He was up to third by the time the caution flag flew 20 laps later.
Sawinski is 9th and Dave Sensiba is 10th. Of course, those are some of the cars that pitted. And we're less than 100 laps away from the conclusion of the Jennerstown 300. So it's going to be interesting to see if those guys can fight their way back up as tires wear and get out for some of the guys that did not pit.
Speaking of tire wear, Bill Baird in the 26 car has his hands full at Speedy Pop Popcorn. Saturn Machine Chevrolet now gives up second to Harold Fair. He's extremely loose on the racetrack. There's a lot of cars coming right up on the backside, including Jack Landis in that Maisto, Adirondack International Speedway 07. Mike Eddy again, 45 circuits down if you just joined us. Had another ignition problem in the 88.
Landis's car, of course, an easy one to pick out. It's the only one with a beaver on the side of the race car. Of course, the beaver, the sponsor of the mascot, Adirondack Speedway.
Tony Raines is coming again on the outside. Scott Hansen in the 52 also in the fight, but Hansen did not pit this last caution. 12 laps into this green flag segment, Mike Miller has checked out, but Raines and the bunch are coming. Actually, Raines and Sawinski pitted at the same time, but Tony Raines is at least 25 car lengths and 5 cars deeper into the progression forward than Sawinski. So
there you see Raines in that 2 car.
Gillen Enterprises, number 2.
Hansen right there behind him in the 52, the white car. Still no sponsor on that machine. And Mike Eddy in the middle of that. Mike, as you remember, had a bunch of problems. He's actually running about 22nd on the racetrack. As his frustrations continue this season.
Speaking of frustrations, Tom Jones' crew is now pushing the Zero Hero down pit lane. He was up to 5th on the racetrack, and now the crew is pushing him back out of the track. He's a number of laps down, so this is not one of the most memorable weekends for Jones. Now they push him behind the wall. The car did not fire, and Jonesy out of it in the 0.
And a parting point for Tom Jones. Mike Kofer and I were talking with Jones before the start of the race. Tom, as you know, a huge fan of the Chicago Bulls, who are on their way to possibly another NBA title. We were asking Tom if he was going to paint another Bulls insignia on the hood, and Mike Kofer suggested a picture of Dennis Rodman on the hood of Jones's car. The scary thing is, Jones thinks it's possible.
Jones would do that.
That's what scares me.
It's just a matter of what shade to put the hairdo.
Bill Baird, Speedy Pop car.
Very impressive run today from Bill Baird. Started out the season with a 14th place run at Kenley. They changed the motor this morning, and the motor that they put back in it was the one they had at Kenley. So it has roughly 400 circuits on that 4/10 mile racetrack. So a fairly fresh motor for the 26 team, and it certainly is paying off here.
Well, he's got quite a bit of competition from Jack Landis on the outside. This is the car that Todd Forbes used to drive. Todd having a pretty good day today as well in his first appearance on the tour. He's running at 8th right now.
Talking to Todd Forbes, he had said he did not realize how much work he had to put into this car to make it just for this race. We're 4 races into the season. Todd very involved with the family trucking business. But the Axel Handler 98 car in the top 10 throughout the afternoon. He always runs well here. And Forbes was glad to come back, but he said he could not believe how much work he had to put in. He said it felt like more work than he ever thought of when he's running weekly here with the ASA.
Bill started way back in 24th position, and he is up to 3rd right now as he lost a spot to Landis. Actually, that'll drop him back to 5th.
In 6th is Scott Hansen, 7th is Rick Miller, 8th is Todd Forbes, 9th is Dave Sensiba, 10th is Kevin Sawinski, 11th is Ted Smokestad.
And with that, we'll take the opportunity to step away for a quick moment as the Jennerstown 300 begins to wind down. Well, I hope it's more like summer where you are than it is here in the hills of Pennsylvania. Pretty cold and breezy outside, as you just saw the leader, and now there is 2nd place, Harold Fair, with Tony Raines running right behind him in 3rd. Mike Miller out front, AMC 1000 Pontiac. Now this is one of the cars in the field where a lot of the guys buy either a Howe chassis or a Port City chassis to go racing with. Mike Miller, Junior Hanley, and Bob Seneker are the 3 drivers that design their own front and rear clips. If this is the first time you've seen an ASA race, they all buy the center sections from the same place. Howe Engineering does the center sections, and they're all serial numbered and stamped. That's all the same. And of course, within the rule book, you're able to do whatever you want to the front and the rear clips. And Mike Miller, one of the 3 drivers that does his own, designs it on a computer, puts it together, and it's turned out to be a pretty good race car. Scott Hansen does not do his that way, but it's working pretty good. He's in the 52, and he's giving chase to Bill Baird right now. This is a fight for 5th position.
Hansen in the Port City chassis. This race car is the first event for this car. He ran the first 3 races with the other brand new Port City Pontiac that the team put together. He thought he wanted to make a change.
Whoa, Ted Smokestack getting very loose over in turn 1. He almost lost it.
Back to Hansen in this battle here for position. Hansen thought he needed to make a change. He didn't know if it was the Pontiac body or if it was the team or if it was just the race car. And he said, we'll start with changing the race car first. And he dropped the motor that they ran last race into this car, and it's the first laps it's seen this weekend.
Mike Eddy goes back behind the wall once again. He's running back in 31st position at the time. Dave Sensiba, there you see him closing in on the outside of Scott Hansen. Bill Baird, who had that great finish at Buffalo last year at the Lancaster Speedway, in a very, very slippery racetrack. And now there's Sensiba in the 6th car. He is all the way up to 6th position right now.
We're into that 70-lap window. 69 circuits remain here on the half-mile at Jennerstown Speedway. Any caution from here forward? You see a bunch of leaders come down pit lane now. With Sensiba staying out until he pitted with 100 circuits to go, we'll see if his car will handle and hold as he comes through the field. Mike Miller right now did not elect to pit on lap 200. Stays out at the point.
Mike Miller leading. Mike Eddy's day is done. He'll climb out of the car here momentarily. 232 laps in the books. We're back to Jennerstown Speedway. Little town of Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. We're now outside of Pittsburgh, and Tony Raines is behind the wheel of that car right there, the reigning ASA champ, and he's trying to pick up a victory here today as he's chasing down Mike Miller, who's looking for his 2nd victory of the 1997 season. Mike in the AFC 1000 out front, the Pontiac having a good day, being chased by another Pontiac owned by Jim Daly. Tony's going to do a couple of guest drives with us this year if his schedule works out from behind the wheel of the
Whoa, trouble in turn 3.
Joe Knott. And he not only gets into the wall, but we saw a flash of flame out of that car, too.
Bring it in.
Chris Bradley
Stopped on the track.
He went sailing into the turn 3 wall at near full speed.
You saw the crew yelling, bring it in, bring it in. They obviously didn't realize it was their driver that was the cause for the yellow. The 12th one of the day.
Joe, can you talk to us?
That sounded like Joe Knott's dad, Ron Knott, who was checking to see if his son was okay. And Joe is out of the car and all right.
Youngest full-time driver in ASA. As they say, when you're young, it heals faster, and he'll be sore for a couple of days after that lick.
So he'll make his way back to Michigan. Living up in the Grand Haven area up on Lake Michigan, and we'll have a chance to rest up before the next race, which will be the first ASA race on Motor Madness coming up in 2 weeks. Well, some of the guys take advantage of pit stops. One of them, Kevin Sawinski, will take advantage of it as well. We'll be right back after this. If you were wondering, yes, the Food and Lion TNN Salute to Motorsports will return in 1997 at Opryland. The dates are June 25th through the 29th, 1997. For more information, call 615-889-6611, Monday through Friday. TNN Salute to Motorsports taking place in Nashville a little bit later this summer. Should be a lot of fun. Well, Joe Knott's out of the car, and Dave Burns has caught him.
Yeah, Ralph, that hit in the wall was pretty scary, but so was the ride getting there. Joe, tell us about it.
Well, we're all right. That's first thing. Kind of a scary thing. The first time it's happened to me, the throttle stuck wide open, and we weren't doing good right then. We were hoping for another yellow, and unfortunately we were the yellow, but we wanted to come in and put another set of tires on. We were falling back there a little bit. And just unfortunate for the Valvoline team, not Motorsports, Ray Ford. The crew did an awesome job getting me in and out of the pits. We thought we had a good car. We just wanted to come in and put a pit stop on it, and unfortunate for us today.
Joe, we're going to see you go home with a whole car and a checkered flag here at Jennerstown someday.
Yeah, we got another car back in the shop that we got to finish up, and that's probably the one we'll be bringing to Berlin. So we'll be taking this one to Port City. It's got some extensive damage to it, but we're all right.
Well, the good news for Joe is Port City's on the way home, just Muskegon, Michigan, just outside of Grand Rapids, between there and Grand Haven. Look at the skid marks as he tried to lock it up and keep it off of that.
He hit very, very hard, and he's lucky that he hit early in turn number 3. It was less of an angle of an impact, so the right front tire and all the suspension took the brunt of the damage. And they'll coming back here to Jennerstown Speedway September 28th, so we'll see if Knott can back up his good runs with finally with a win.
I guess no souvenir collector is going to get that hood. If he wins the race, Mike Miller might be willing to cough up that AFC 1000 hood, though, because the string of luck he's been having lately, pretty good.
Mike Miller is the leader. Tony Raines is second. Harold Fair, Jack Landis, and Dave Sensible run top 5.
By the way, Buddy Schrock back out on the racetrack. And they are servicing his car a little bit.
Rick Beebe is up to 7th position on the racetrack. He made up 2 laps. What a strong run for that heating and air conditioning owner out of Merriam, Kansas. See if he can make the charge here with 52 circuits remaining.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, Jim. Mike Miller, Tony Raines, Harold Fair, Jack Landis, Dave Sensible, your top 5. Rick Miller back up to 6th. He has fought his way up through a long day. His career best is a 7th at the High Banks at Toledo back in May of '96. So now he sees all the way up to 6th position. Could be a great day for him. Rick Beebe back to 7th after being 2 laps down. We said he was quick. They knew they didn't want to give him a lap back. And Tim Sauter, Scott Hansen, and Kevin Sawinski round out the top 10. This is going to be an exciting finish.
And with the mix of lap cars just a tick slower, it will make it a very exciting run to the finish. Brandon Spurley had a great run going early on. He's nearly as quick as the leaders, but he is a few laps down after losing the hood and the fender in an altercation. Leaders are now safely by his machine as he continues.
Let's check in with Dave Burns with more on the 81 car.
Guys, if Harold Fair goes to the end of this race under the long green here, the left side tires on that car will have, guess how many laps on them? 300. They have not changed them. They've gone to the right side a couple of times.
Well, you know, we know that the tire that they run at ASA Racing is a spec tire. It tends to be a little bit harder, and the reason for that is because everybody's running the same thing. The left side tires, of course, the ones that take the least amount of abuse, and we know that this is a racetrack that's easy on tires, with guys putting in well over 100 laps on the right side. Not really surprising, I guess, that they could get a full race in on the left side, but boy, that would be a huge trick up his sleeve if he's able to pull it off, huh?
It's part of the gamble and part of that track position that comes into play with the 100 laps or so to go. It's very important. As we saw Dave Sensiba, who is leading at the midpoint of the race now, a full straightaway behind the leaders. He did not come into pit either. He made that call, he made that gamble, and as he makes his way back forward, it didn't pay off for him just yet.
Well, that's veteran experience, too. Let's face it, Harold Fair's been on the ASA Tour for quite a few years. His son, Harold Jr., the crew chief on the 81 car. Oh, Mike Kofer spins the Black & Decker, wins car number 79. No yellow flag. Now it comes out.
There he is. He's just getting back up to speed. The yellow is now out. Flagman was sleeping.
So the yellow flag getting waved. And I believe this is caution number 13. I'll have to check and see how close that is to a record here at Jennerstown.
257, and those are the 4 positions in front of you that you want.
No, that's the crew talking to Dave Sensiba. Dave has got 3 cars in front of him. He's sitting, or 4 cars in front of him.
Really got to keep the tires clean on the restart here, buddy.
Patrick Hauser, the crew chief, telling Dave Sensiba to keep it clean. Those 2 guys are the only full-time guys for Leroy Troop.
Hey, don't get him too dirty.
Dave sits in 5th. We'll take advantage of the opportunity to keep our tires clean as well. Dave Sensiba in 5th, looking for a win. Welcome back to Jennerstown Speedway, and You're watching one heck of a great fight for the lead. Mike Miller on the bottom in the red 18, the AFC 1000 Pontiac, fighting with a Pontiac teammate. Tony Raines on the outside, the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series champion, takes the lead. By the way, if you were scoring at home, we have tied the record for most cautions here at Jennerstown Speedway. It was 13 for 62 laps in October of 1995, and we are now at 13 cautions once again here in 1997. 265 in the scheduled, 300 in the book, so we might even break the record before we're done the way things are going here today.
For the second time, Tony Raines takes the point. Fifth different leader in this Jennerstown 300. Harold Fair hanging tough in third in the CarQuest AC-Delco Pontiac.
You know, the other thing here, Jim, is that all these drivers that are running up front, challenging for the lead, and what a great fight we've got here as Miller goes to the bottom once again. They've been on the outside, they've been on the inside. Nobody really seems to be forced to stay in one group or the other. They seem to go wherever they need to.
Great short track racing. Tony Raines raced for Ernie Rosselli for 4 seasons out of Bigler, Pennsylvania. Considering this is home track, he's run every ASA event run at Jennerstown Speedway, and here now he leads again for the second time today.
Just behind these 3 cars, coming up like a freight train, is Rick Beebe. Here you see him. He was 2 laps down at one point in the race. He is now 4th in the field and coming on strong in the number 23. Scott Hansen is 5th. Sensiba is actually Jack Landis is 5th. Hansen is 6th. Sensiba is 7th. Rick Miller, Kevin Sawinski, and Ted Smokestad rounding out the top 10. 268 laps completed. I think Rick Beebe is going to do a little bit more barking before this thing is over with.
And he had a severe cold. He was almost bedridden coming into the race. The crew didn't want him out of the hauler unless he had to get in the race car because of the cool temperatures here and his health. So what a great charge for Beebe and that Hodges Motorsports team.
And we can't say it enough. Remember, he's only got 3 brakes working, the right rear blowing out early on in the event. And you know, that, as they said, would give him a heavy push, but he has hung on that bottom yellow line all day long. Tony Raines, you can see the hood ajar on the number 2 car. Not a problem for him. With 30 laps to go, there you see Beebe, and behind him is Jack Landis. Look at this, Mike Miller not done with Tony Raines yet.
Either Raines likes the outside or knows he's not clear of Mike Miller just yet.
Mike Miller, of course, not only racing for the win here today, but he's racing for a championship. He came into the event 7th in the points. Tony Raines just making a couple of guest appearances this year as the 96 champ is moved over to the Craftsman Truck Series. So this is big for Mike Miller today because a lot of the guys, Jim, that he would be chasing the championship with, Carlson, who was 2nd, he's already out. St. Amand is laps down. Joe Knott, who is 6th, just in front of him, he is out. Dave Sensiba and Kevin Sawinski, 1st and 3rd in the points, are behind him. Mike Miller's going to make a big leap here today.
Sawinski did lead the first 121 circuits, and that's the only time he has led, but that is a great chunk of the race, so he may get the 5 extra points for leading the lap. But you're right, the finishing positions decreased by 5 from 1st on down to 12th, so we'll see if that will be a factor, and certainly it will be throughout the year. These guys are looking at every point possible.
That's the fight for 8th and 9th that you're looking for right there. Rick Miller in the 31 car, the white machine, and right behind him, Ted Smokestad, the trim class number 32.
Both of these drivers getting around Kevin Sawinski. It was side-by-side racing for Sawinski and Smokestad, but Sawinski has fallen back, and look at these guys battle. Rick Miller and Ted Smokestad. Their 4th season respectively here in ASA, and a little too close there.
We really haven't heard what happened to Sawinski, but he just seems to have drifted off at the setup. In the later stages of the race wasn't what it was early on. Nobody could touch him in the early stages of the race. Pit strategy-wise, he was good on long runs with, he put over 120 laps on the first set of tires, and now here in the closing stages of the event, he can't seem to get himself, he's still in the top 10, but just that, he's 10th.
He did pit on lap 200, then came in under the caution at lap 243, so it's not like he's staying out for tire wear purposes. He's changing things around in that chassis setup. It's been about 30 laps on this current situation where he only changed 2 tires in ASA, and perhaps the match of left sides and right side tires have cost him some track position.
So if you're Mike Miller, Jim, what do you do at this point? Do you really push Tony Raines, or do you just watch Tony and show him a few different things and see how he reacts and wait? There's almost 20 laps to go. I mean, do you try to get around him now, or do you just try to ride there and wait for 10 to go or so?
He's doing exactly what he did at the outset of the race. He's mirroring and shadowing the race leader. At that point, it was Kevin Sawinski. Right now, Tony Raines can run the middle of the racetrack in the upper groove. That's how he got by Mike Miller, but Mike Miller continues to be right on that yellow line in the turns. That is playing on the mind of Tony Raines. That played on the mind of Sawinski, that maybe had him use his tires up more than he wanted to. Raines made the charge through the field twice this afternoon after pit stops, and now he's back at the point, but you can see now he's pushing up in the turn. Mike Miller's able to turn it down earlier. I believe that may pay off. As you know, off of turn number 4, middle of that front straightaway is the finish line.
So he might just wait and put a little bit of pressure on him and allow Raines to, well, a little loose there. Might force Raines to burn up those tires just a hair bit more, get that car a little bit looser, and then go around him when he knows that once he gets around him, Raines won't have anything left to mount another challenge.
Interesting to note off of turn number 2. We'll watch this battle again off of turn number 4 this time. Raines a little bit tighter inside turn 3. Off of turn number 4, he lets it drift all the way out to the wall. Now, as they go into turn 1, Raines will go the middle line. Without the lap car there, Raines then drifts all the way up to the outside of that black portion of the racing surface. That's the second groove. Raines is letting the car roll through turn 2 better, and Mike Miller has to wait till turn 3 to catch him again.
The other thing that has happened is that Rick Beebe's charge to the front has stalled. He still sits in 4th, but he has not been able to reel in the white 81 of Harold Fair, who's, what would you say, Jim, about a half a second or so behind this fight for the lead right now?
Yeah, he's about 25 car lengths as they enter turn number 3. You see the leaders now going around Brandon Sperling. And Tim Sauter about to go a lap down as well. He had such a good run going, had a run up into the top 10. Sauter was up to 3rd at one point in the race. He's running just ahead of Billy Turner here in the 58 car. There's Sauter going a lap down now.
There's Harold Fair. This would be a great run for Harold if he can hang on and finish even 3rd in this event. This would be a tremendous run. The veteran driver. I don't think anybody on the ASA family would mind seeing Harold Fair out of Detroit, Michigan, who started 17th today, come home with a 3rd place finish, of course, except for the guy in 4th.
He really has a solid run, and his son Harold Fair Jr. climbed behind Neil Conley's car, got in there, drove the entire race, finished 16th for Doc Conley in Pensacola, Florida a race ago, and now he's back crew chiefing for his dad.
Here's Dave Sensiba in the red and white number 6, and Scott Hansen in the 52. They're battling for 6th. Of course, Hansen's team owner Ken Schrader will be running in the Winston a little later on today,
Yellow
7 o'clock.
Yellow ain't out yet. Yellow ain't out yet. Keep going. Keep going.
Brad Loney has spun in turn number 1.
No yellow. He's at the top.
That's going
no yellow.
Maybe end a streak for Loney if they can't get it going.
Crazy.
Well, we're waiting to see what the story. There's the yellow. 267 is where the yellow comes out. Loney has been going on a streak of finishing races. He has surpassed Jack Ingram with Sam Ard, the streak of most races behind the wheel of a stock car finishing the event. Some
47 straight.
Unbelievable stretch of records. And now, we got together with Garvey, yeah.
Brad had some trouble. He had a flat tire early on in the race, put him down a few laps.
Backed in hard too, Jim. You know, they've done some miraculous things in keeping Brad out on the racetrack. That was an awfully hard hit that's done. You can see the rear wheels are off there, and that, I think, is going to bring this streak to an end, because with less than 20 laps to go, I know Kurt Beckler and the gang can work some magic down there in the pits, but I don't think they can get the Bun Saver car back out.
And they did break the record a race ago, and they had to change a lot of components. He did have a crash, but they were in the early portions of the race. Now we're closing in on 10 laps, and unfortunately for Brad, he's out of the car, and I don't think those guys, like you said, Ralph, will have time to continue that streak.
Some of the most amazing finishes in ASA history have taken place here at Jennerstown Speedway. What will it be like today? Tony Raines hopes his name's on the trophy. We'll find out when we come back. We're back. Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. Some of the city in the background. Actually, the Speedway is about the first thing you come to as you come into Jennerstown out of the city of Somerset, which is the biggest city next to Jennerstown.
Right up the Pennsylvania Turnpike, exit 379, and just about 5-6 miles up 601, and drive right into the racetrack. It's a beautiful setting for a racetrack. Subdivision out the back stretch.
Well, we were wondering when we were going to see Brad Loney out of the race before the checkers fell. Today was the day, Dave.
Brad, what happened out there?
Well, we had some good tight racing going there with Garvey with the I don't know how many laps to go there, and we got to bumping a little bit side by side, but you know, I thought I was doing my job in the Bun Saver Hunter Specialties flex steel car, and I thought he was doing his job trying to keep me back. You know, I'd like to think that we can take care of each other a little bit better than this, but unfortunately it ruined what was left of our day. And this has been a tough season for us to try to work through the beginning of this year, and we'll be back. We'll be back in Michigan and ready to go get them again.
Now, you got the record. Now you've had to end that in terms of finishes. I mean, is that any satisfaction at all?
Actually, I hadn't thought of it until you just mentioned it, and you know, that monkey's off our back, and you know, we're here to try to win races and do what we need to do every week, and that's what we'll continue doing.
Okay, they're going to turn another chapter.
Well, we got another car in the wall, and another yellow coming out is Todd Forbes. Loses it in the axle handler, number 98.
And ironically, Todd Forbes was the only car to streak down pit lane under that caution late in the race, under 10 laps to go. Forbes trying to hang on to lead lap position. He was running in the 12th spot, and somehow on the restart, he swapped ends and touched the outside wall with the left side tires.
Yeah, and he touched it hard enough to do some pretty heavy damage to the left front of the car.
Good run for Todd Forbes, gone wrong there as they came in for, I believe, a left side change on that pit stop.
Tony Raines, Mike Miller, Harold Fair, Rick Beebe, Jack Landis, and Dave Sensiba. Scott Hansen, Ted Smokestad, Rick Miller, and Kevin Sawinski still in the lineup for the top 10. Too bad to see the streak for Brad Loney come to an end, but I think in some ways it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because it'll allow them, as he said, just to go racing without having to worry about the streak. .295 laps completed. Now, one note here with ASA Racing is you will finish this race under green. The last 5 laps have got to be run under green flag conditions. So at this point, with 295 laps completed, we are not counting yellow flag laps. Now, if we go back to green, get a lap in the book, and go to yellow again, we stay that way. We will run the last 5 laps, if it takes us 1 lap at a time, under green. And I think that is one of the best rules going.
It's being adapted elsewhere, and I think the fans like it because you're not ending the race under circumstance. You're ending the race with guys fighting for the win.
We're going to go back to green in 1 more lap. 5 circuits of this beautiful half mile here in Pennsylvania as we wrap up the Jennerstown 300. Raines, Mike Miller, Harold Fair, Rick Beebe, Jack Landis, the top 5. And they're all pretty much actually all the way back to 6th as nose to tail. And then Peter Cozzolino is sandwiched between Sensiba and Hansen and Smokestad, Miller. Then another car before we see Tim Sauter. Kevin Sawinski's got a long way to go back in the number 1 car, and he sits in 10th.
He's about 13 cars in line as we go back to green here, Ralph. Here, exciting finish in the Jennerstown 300. Tony Raines gets a great jump on Mike Miller.
Boy, it cost Miller a car length and a half, maybe 2 car lengths. And he's not closing it up either.
Tony Raines has finished twice here in the runner-up position. First in 1991 and backed that up with the race in July of 96 with a 2nd place finish in his championship season. Again, he has a lot of fans here as he lived in Pennsylvania for a number of years.
Oh, we stack him up in turns 1 and 2. Mike Garvey involved again. And Peter Cozzolino. This is the 16th caution, so we have blown that record of 13 right out of the water. Cozzolino and Garvey getting together in turns 1 and 2.
Kind of wish you didn't say 1 lap at a time, Ralph, because that's exactly
what we're going on. 296 now.
These guys fighting out for position, even if they are on the same lap, a couple of laps behind the leaders. Every point counts, every position counts.
Well, that was really bad news for Raines, too, because he had worked so hard to get that good jump, had it, and he had what looked like 2.5, maybe 3 seconds on
car lengths at least. And
on Mike, and that could be an eternity with just 4 laps to go.
That's saying, I think I have the winning hand. Here's 4 of a kind. And now we have another chance for Mike Miller to play the hand again. He's going to have the chance to catch Raines here. Maybe he was sleeping a little bit on that restart. Raines showed, hey, I'm going to do this restart. I'm thinking about it. I'm going to start in turn 3. I'm going to hold him up, then I'm going to hit the gas pedal. He got Mike Miller by 3 car lengths at the start. This time, I don't think that poker hand's going to be as unique, shall we say, or as good.
Well, it ain't going to be the same hand, you know that, because
right.
Mike has seen that trick already.
That's right.
He's been around enough, he ain't going to forget.
Harold Fair in third, running fourth is Todd Forbes, or excuse me, as Jack Landis.
There's Jim Daly. Watching for the spin. Oh, not what he wanted to see.
Tire specialist Mike Hoskins there, thinking the same.
Tell the chrome from the non-chrome, and maybe he didn't find the right size tire in his pit and went down pit lane to a car that was a number of laps down and asked to borrow that size tire. Tire sizing is very important with these bias ply Goodyear Eagle.
Doesn't have to be pretty as long as you finish in victory lane. Here we go. 4 laps to the checkered flag. The Jennerstown 300 underway once again. Dave Sensiba still looking for his first career win. Rides in 6th for Leroy Troop. Tony Raines looking to defend his crown a little bit. Won't be able to run the whole season with the ASA series. The AC-Delco champ would like to defend the crown with at least 1 victory here today at Jennerstown.
Well, Raines did have the same hand again this time and beat Mike Miller to the restart line as we're closing on the finish.
Maybe Mike just can't get a good jump. That might be all it takes for Tony, too. This time by 2 laps to go. Miller now starts to close up. Maybe he just needs to get it rolling a little bit. He's cut it down to a car length. Let's see what he can do. They're going to have just 1 circuit to go when they come by. Raines, Mike Miller, Harold Fair, Rick Beebe, Jack Landis, the top 5 with 1 lap to go at the Jennerstown 300. Mike Miller trying to make a run at him, coming out of turn number 2. He's not able to hug that yellow line anymore. Maybe that's the difference. Tony Raines comes off at turn number 4 in a guest drive for Jim Daly, and the 1996 AC-Delco champion has won the Jennerstown 300. Mike Miller is 2nd, Harold Fair is 3rd. Rick Beebe in a tremendous drive finishes 4th after being 2 laps down. Dave Sensiba fights his way up into 5th. Jack Landis, Scott Hansen, Ted Smokestad, and Kevin Sawinski, and Rick Miller, unofficially, your top 10. But Tony Raines, the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series champion, is the winner of the Jennerstown 300. We'll talk to him when we come back right after this. Tony Raines, the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series champion. That was certainly a proud accomplishment for him. But coming back to the series, winning here at Jennerstown, Dave Burns, I would have to think is another crowning moment for him.
Well, it sure is. And, Tony, I have to turn you around here, Tony, because we're on television here. And did you get confused about what kind of vehicle you were driving today?
No, not really. I got to thank, the team I drive for, Pennzoil, is my sponsor, and Dodge helps us out in the truck series, and we had a weekend off, and those guys were nice enough to let me come out here and play, and it was worth it today.
Now, champion last year, so you obviously know how to drive these things. How tough was it to come back and race with these guys?
It wasn't really tough. I mean, I was worried about it not being racing week in and week out, but Jim Daly here with Gillen owns the car, and I mean, it's a really good piece. It's won before, and I really appreciate him letting me drive it, and I had a bunch of my friends out here in Pennsylvania helping me on the pits, and they were awesome. I was worried about that at the beginning of the race, but everything was picture perfect today. I've run a lot of races here at Jennerstown and should have won them. I felt like this place owed me one, and I got it today.
Now, how in the world do you think that Jim Daly can come out and do this time after time on a one-to-one race deal and get you such good equipment?
Well, he's got some good equipment, and he keeps up with what's going on, and he doesn't get too excited except for during the race, but we had a lot of fun. We come out here to do this, obviously because we had the weekend off from truck racing, and it feels pretty good. It's really neat.
Former winner, former champion, and veteran crew chief Tony Raines gets it done today.
Well, I had the opportunity to go go-kart racing with Tony earlier in the week at Kenny Schrader's go-kart track, actually, back in Charlotte the other day, and he was complaining that he wasn't winning races because he was choosing the bad carts. Well, Tony, I think he chose a good cart today.
Certainly did.
The number 2 was the one to have.
7th career ASA victory for Tony Raines. He won 3 a season ago and winning the championship with the Baker Motorsports team. He now keeps Pontiac's record perfect for the year, winning the first 4 races, and it's a Pontiac sweep, 1, 2, 3.
Well, the Jennerstown 300 is complete. Let's see if we can give you a quick read through the rundown here. Tony Raines, of course, the winner. Mike Miller comes home in second. Harold Fair is third. That's a tremendous finish for Harold.
Great run for Harold. Actually, it's the first top 5 since 1994 at Milwaukee for Harold Fair.
Rick Beebe and Dave Sensiba finish 4th and 5th. We apparently have an audio or a video difficulty, so you're hearing us but might not be seeing us. We'll try to get this rundown for you. The Wins winning move goes to Dave Sensiba, who finished 5th. Jack Landis is 6th. Scott Hansen was 7th. Ted Smokestad was 8th. Kevin Sawinski is 9th. We'll have to find out what that does to him for the point standings. Two-way communication equipment for the AC-Delco Challenge Series is provided by Racing Electronics, the official communications of the ASA. ASA Racing is produced for television by Silver Fox Sports, Charlotte, North Carolina. For Dave Burns, Jim Trado, I'm Ralph Shaheen. Congratulations, Tony Raines.